said. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everybody. And we do have Councilmember Tran, who is appearing, actually, I see him right there, Councilmember Tran. Councilmember Tran, where are you appearing from?
From Bangkok, Thailand.
My goodness, halfway around the world. What time is it there?
It's actually 8:30
In the morning.
in the morning.
Time travel. All right. We have a visitor from the future. All right. All right. So with that, actually, Council President Kuchma, do you have a motion?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I move to amend the agenda to replace item 9B on the business agenda with an item named Resolution Expressing Support of a Proposed Psychiatric Residential Treatment Facility to be sited in the city and operated by Emerald City Behavioral Health, and to add an item 9C named Authorization to Accept WCIA, that's Washington City Insurance Authority's Risk Reduction Grant. That's a motion.
That's right. Is there a second? It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilmember Tran.
Aye.
All right. Just kidding there. All right. Okay. I'll stop with the dad humor. Okay, we've got ceremonies of recognition. When speaking of dad, I need the glasses. We've got Chief, come on down. We've got the police author oath of ceremonies.
All right, good evening, Mayor Farrell, Council President Kuchma, and members of the council. It is my pleasure this evening to introduce the newest members of the Federal Way Police Department to you and our residents. Mayor Farrell will then administer the oath of office. The 7 officers standing before you are both entry-level and experienced lateral police officers who are currently in our field training program. These officers are quality individuals and people of integrity, and we're fortunate to have them as part of our team in serving our community. First, we have Officer Jeffrey Parker. Jeff was hired as a lateral police officer on January 16th. He was born in Kentucky and raised in California and Utah. Prior to joining the City of Federal Way, Jeff worked as an agent for the Utah State Bureau of Investigation, specializing in narcotics, and as a state trooper for the Utah Highway Patrol. Jeff is married to Tiffany, a detective with the Federal Way Police Department. We're also pleased to have both husband and wife team serving our community. Tiffany came to us before, so she may have voluntold Jeff that he was going to work for Federal Way, but he seems really happy here, so we're really pleased to have him. Next, we have Officer Allison Mans. Allie was hired on March 17th as an experienced lateral police officer. Allie was born in Wichita, Kansas, and grew up in Florida. Before coming to work for the City of Federal Way, Allie was an officer with the Bellevue Police Department. She's been a police officer since 2021. Prior to that, Allie was a corrections officer with the Washington State Department of Corrections. Allie has 2 sisters, one of whom is her twin. She enjoys spending time with her dog, Goose, and hiking and camping. All right, next we have Officer Tommy Wall. Tommy was hired as an entry-level police officer in August of 2024. He grew up in Bonnie Lake, graduated from Bonnie Lake High School in 2017, and attended Pierce College. When not at work, Tommy enjoys spending time with his fiancée, Olivia, who joined us tonight, and enjoys playing board games with his friends and family. He graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on January 28th. Next, we have Officer Luis Cardozo. Luis was hired as an entry-level police officer in October of 2024. He was born in Mexico City, moved to the United States, and grew up in Pierce County. He graduated from Lincoln High School in Tacoma. Lewis is married to Daisy. He graduated from Basic Law Enforcement Academy on March 19. Next, we have Officer Lene Coughlin. Lene was hired as an entry-level police officer in October of 2024. She grew up in Everett and attended Everett Community College. Prior to coming to work for the Federal Way Police Department, Lene was a medical service officer, EMT, and a field training officer with Northwest Ambulance. She has also served as a volunteer firefighter and EMT with Darrington Fire Department. Lene's husband, DJ, who's here with us this evening, is an officer with Bonnie Lake PD. Lene graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on March 19. Right, next we have Officer Figueroa. Steve was hired in October of 2024 as an entry-level police officer. He was born in California and moved to Washington as a toddler. He graduated from Chief Sealth International High School. Steve attended the University of Washington studying informatics. Steve graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on March 19. Okay, next we have Officer Bryce Seguenza. Bryce was hired as an entry-level police officer in October of 2024. He grew up in Mill Creek and graduated from Henry M. Jackson High School. Prior to joining the Federal Way Police Department, Bryce was a store manager at Graham Auto Repair. Bryce is married to Brandy and has 3 children. He graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on March 19th. Please join me in welcoming the newest members of the Federal Way Police Department. Officers, if you could come up here now.
Officers, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name. Do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States.
Do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States
And the state of Washington.
and the state of Washington,
And that I will support the Constitution
and I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States.
and laws of the United States
And the laws of the state of Washington.
and the laws of the state of Washington,
And will, to the best of my judgment,
and will, to the best of my judgment,
skill, and ability,
skill, and ability,
truly and faithfully,
truly and faithfully,
diligently and impartially,
diligently and impartially,
perform the duties of police officer
perform the duties of police officer
in and for the city of Federal Way,
in and for the city of Federal Way,
in the state of Washington, King County,
in the state of Washington, King County,
and such duties as prescribed by law.
and such duties as prescribed by law.
Congratulations. Quite a group. I don't think we've ever had. Have we had this many people?
Do you want a photo for citywide?
Yeah, you guys, let's have all the officers go this way. Let's have the council stand up behind you. We got your backs.
Literally.
All right, congratulations, officers.
Okay, officers, you're excused. Federal Way Police family, you're also excused. This is the great time for you to exit.
Hey, Chief, before you move away from the podium, where does this take us in regard to our total count?
We're currently at 144 hired.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. How's that? Okay. All right, so this is the mayor's emerging issues and report. First, the picture on the bottom left is our own King County Councilman Pete Von Reichbauer started years ago something he refers to as the Good Eggs Breakfast. This was over down at Emerald Downs, attended by several members of the city council. We actually were very fortunate to have the CEO of Hawaiian Airlines, Joe Sprague, and Hawaiian Airlines and Alaska have essentially merged. And Joe had spent many years with Alaska, and now he is the CEO of Alaska Airlines, and he was talking about how they wanted to retain some of that identity. It was actually a very good conversation. We've got the mayors, for many of the mayors of South King County, including myself, there. Pete always has like a group shot at the end. And Joe was actually really very interesting, and just making sure that we were, there was a lot of good-natured banter, a lot of great questions, and once again, he was talking about retaining the identity and the quality of the service of Alaska, of Hawaiian Air, but also the benefits of the merger, as it were. Okay, then we had a Transit Safety Task Force kickoff on March 20th. That was in South Seattle at the ATU 587, the Amalgamated Transportation Union 587 is spearheading this. There were many elected officials, the mayor of Seattle, several King County Council members, the chair of several members of the King County Council, and several mayors from around the county. And it really is a true task force. There was also the director of Sound Transit that was there. The director of, the King County executive was there, along with the director of Metro, really talking about real practical ways that cities, local governments, police departments can work with and make sure that the drivers are safe. There was a horrible homicide of a Metro bus driver back in December of last year, and this really was the impetus for bringing all those together. And when I walked into the room down there, it was at the labor union hall for the machinist, and I was actually really surprised at how wide breadth the task force was. And so there were great conversations about not just how to secure the buses from a physical standpoint, but also how to make sure that there are systemic steps in place to ensure the safety of the drivers and the passengers and the other members of the public. So I had an opportunity to speak at that and to participate in that. It was actually very, very productive. Then we had the March of Diapers drive on Saturday, March 22nd. You can see that with the picture to the second from the right. And that was a very productive day. Let's see here. Preliminarily, more than 11,500 diapers and 7,500 wipes were collected. Donations can still be provided in the front lobby of City Hall through through yesterday. Cheryl was present for that as well, and it was great to see Cheryl Hurst and Executive Director Ann Sappington. And Michael Williamson and his team at Fred Meyer and all the volunteers just did a fantastic job, so we appreciate them. Then there's a picture there of the City Council and School Board Coffee and Conversations on Saturday, March 22nd, same day, over there just on the east side of the freeway, like I said, at Ebony and Ivory Cafe. All right, next. The first picture to the bottom left captures my testimony via Zoom before the Senate Law and Justice Committee on March 24th. There was a very ill-considered bill to essentially remove prosecutors from the process. And I want to say a very special thank you to Melissa Hamilton. Thank you very much for bringing this back up to my attention. It was something that was brought up last year. Unfortunately, it got through the House before it really got on our radar screen. And Melissa let us know about it. I was actually at the National League of Cities, and this is actually what's really instructive about getting together not just regionally, but these meetings as well. And we were at a reception for all of the mayors and elected officials for Washington. And when I was start talking about 1113, and I'll go back to what it was again, really it wasn't on anybody's radar screen. And Melissa, you played a large part in making sure that the elected officials in the region took note. I want to say a very special thank you to our partners in Auburn who helped draft the letter. And it was really important to have Auburn, Kent, Renton, Tukwila, Maple Valley, Covington, Burien, a lot of those cities in South King County and in around King County opposing 1113. And what it was is a bill that would have cut prosecutors out of the decision-making process on charges that they had brought in municipal or district court if the case had been if the reason was, either the charge or the reason for it was drug or alcohol related, and it would have enabled a judge to essentially indefinitely postpone the case if a person was, and then eventually dismiss it over of the objections of the prosecutors if there was substantial compliance with treatment for drugs or alcohol. And it really is, it was blatantly unconstitutional, so a violation of the separation of powers, but very disturbing. And so it was concerning that it passed the House without us realizing what was happening, and it did so very quickly. But when it got to the Senate, we were able to get our letter out there with all of those cities and several more. And then that was me testifying on it. And so the reports we have right now is that it's not going anywhere, but it got too close to that process. It would have effectively completely changed the way prosecutions at the misdemeanor level are done statewide and remove prosecutors, the people's representatives, from that process, which as a former prosecutor of 19 years concerned me, and as a citizen at Federal Way, concerned me very much. Okay, then the next we had the ribbon cutting for Federal Way Downtown Bus Loop, March 26th. That's the second picture in. This is really just the next step in the process, and when people are asking, is light rail actually going to be done by next year? It's pretty much all done. All they have to do is like plug it in now. All of the railing and the structure is done. And we've been up there a couple times, and they actually have a car that was actually pulled down to that location, down to Federal Way. And now the first step is this bus loop at this location. But by spring of next year, the light rail is on track, so to speak, to be opened. So that's going to be. It's going to fundamentally change the dynamics of our downtown, and a lot of infrastructure investment have been made in that area. So. Big thanks to our staff, EJ, and all of our staff. Sound Transit did a phenomenal job working with us, and just a big thanks to everybody. Goran Spearman, who was the outgoing and soon-to-be former head of Sound Transit, just did a phenomenal job spearheading this. Our King County Councilman Pete Von Reichbauer was there, and our council member is one of the main reasons why, instead of going down Pack Highway, light rail is swung over after Highline, swung over to the freeway, and is coming in right into our downtown, and it's literally in the process of transforming our downtown. I spoke at and we were the host of the Highline Forum on March 26th. That's the picture in the middle with me at the podium. And the Highline Forum is an organization that was essentially formed by airport-affected cities in the South King County, and they get together regularly to talk about issues. And I was able to talk about some of the major goings-on in the city and kind of just some highlights. They allow the host city to do that, and they periodically change the locations quarterly for when those meetings occur. On Saturday, we're at the South King County Tool Library Repair Cafe. And I don't think I did too much damage to that chair, but I looked like it was somewhat helpful for a few minutes. And it's kind of a really neat. I know we had another Councilman Honda was there, and it's a great thing right there at the Masonic Temple. And they periodically have these events where they allow people to come in and help people bring in broken chairs and broken appliances. Or I saw a really old-timey vacuum cleaner that was being worked on. And then I spent all that time with a guy in the way back that was sharpening knives, and he showed me how that's done. It was fascinating. Anyway, so that's always kind of a great community thing. And then this past Sunday, we had the grand opening of the Ukrainian American Fellowship at the community center on March 30th. And I don't know if you guys have seen the big loaf of bread in the back of the room, but you got to go back there and take a look at it. I didn't take it home and eat it all, but that's this big loaf about this big. And over the years, that loaf is going to get bigger and bigger. But it was really a great celebration of the folks from our Ukrainian community, and a big thanks to Vitaly Pikotin and many of the people. I found I learned just enough Ukrainian phrases to say welcome and thank you and goodbye. I'm just kidding. So anyway, it was great event. Next. Okay, upcoming events. Local government entity group. That's the meetings of the meeting of the local governments like the city, school district, fire, the water, and police shows up, and we have again we rotate that at the local governments. Ours is next Tuesday here at City Hall, and we talk about all kinds of issues that our particular issues, and to hear about what the other local governments are doing. Then we had the financial literacy next session, or we will, on April 16th. We've got Parks Appreciation Day coming up on Saturday, April 26th. We've got the Federal Way Farmers Market opening at the Commons on May 10th. And what makes this really historic is the city of Federal Way, for the first time, has been, we're in the transition process of taking over the farmers market. And a big, big, big thanks to Bill Vadino, who has really done a lot of work. He's listening, and he's going to participate. We've got something on the agenda about that, but a great deal of work. Big thanks to the Parks Department for asking all good detailed questions, and we just want to make sure this transition is seamless. And over time, we're probably going to transition away from the location on the backside of the Commons, and we'll have it over there between Town Square Park, that road between Town Square Park and the PAC, and that road there that we'll be able to close off. And we've got to get the bollards to shut that down. But that's going to be in the process. But we just want to make sure that the farmers market's one of the great amenities in our community. It makes a city of 100,000 people feel like a small town, and we want to make sure that's on track, and it is. And big thanks to everybody involved and the people that used to run it, the Eels, and Carla and Vicki Chenoweth and Carla are going to be involved in helping run it, and then Rose and David Eel are obviously consultants and helping us and doing everything they can. We've got the Senior Health Resource Fair on May 15th at the Performing Arts and Events Center, and that's the picture from last year. Is that last year's picture or the year before?
Last year's.
Yeah. Okay. And let's see here. Is that it? That's it. That's my report. A lot going on, and we're heading into the busy season, so that's a lot of fun. Okay, now the most important part of the meeting, public comment. Everybody's got 3 minutes. Just let us know what community you live in. We don't need your address. We got it here. Green means go, yellow means 30 seconds, red means please stop. And I'll call the folks that are listed. We've got Ken Blevins, then Kim Papini, and then Lucia Faithful.
Ken Blevins, City of Federal Way residents for 52 years. Mayor, council, thanks for listening to me. I actually didn't even know what I was going to talk about, but I knew I was going to talk about something. So I went to the 5 o'clock meeting before this, and I mean, it was an interesting meeting with the arts and stuff like that. When I travel, I always go see arts, music, that kind of thing, but I'm really not, public art, the way they spend money on it kind of drives me crazy. But there's an ordinance that says 2% goes to, of a project or the building project or whatever goes to art. I think it should go to art. I think that if I remember correctly, when this whole park thing happened, when the city said the only place we can put this facility is, I know you guys aren't liking this, but where we're going to put this facility is at a park. We're going to take a park away, which we only have so much land, and nobody was really happy with that. And luckily, there was the park land was given to the city with some stipulation, which kept us from being able to do that, and made everybody look like this was the only place we could build it right across the street. So, which is a much better place, right next to the freeway, where a park wouldn't be a good place to be. So with the noise and stuff like that, and being in the building and stuff like that, I'm sure they're dealing with that noise stuff there. So, but it seemed to me like also at that time you guys were complaining about where we needed this because we're in bad situation when we're working and the employees deserve better, which they do. But there was this, people were breaking into the area and stealing stuff, and it was a big deal, and you had to spend money there. But that was before this whole project started, and so it seemed like there was like $800,000 was like 2% or something. I didn't see the numbers, and there was like this fence needed to be built, and so they took money from the art part of this to build a fence. But to me, I think even if that's art on that fence, it's still security, unless that fence is like an art wall in the middle of the place. It's not even have anything to do with keeping people out or whatever. I can see where that would be all spent to that. But I think that you take a portion of that. So hopefully some of this money could be put back into the art for this or something else. I do think that art's important in a city. It just goes to show, just like our city's clean, we care about it. I just want to make sure that if the ordinance says something that we're really fair with that. And honestly, a security fence, part of that security, art shouldn't pay for security. So anyways, I just saw that. So anyways, thanks, bye.
Thanks, Ken. Kim Papini.
Hi, I was here last meeting speaking about the resolution that you were to vote on. It died. I was grateful. Thank you. I noticed, though, that it is back on the agenda, and unfortunately, I haven't had a couple weeks to look into it, but I just noticed that it's a different facilitator. I'm hoping, again, that you vote no. The location hasn't changed. This location is horrible. My 3 points from last discussing it with you still stand. Safety, the fact that this is a King County facility, so it's not just for Federal Way, it's for all of South King County in the heart of Federal Way, and also our resources. I really think that it shouldn't be in the heart of Federal Way for a King County facility. So I'm hoping this time that you do vote no for this resolution instead of just letting it die so that we don't have to deal with this until next fall. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Lucia Faithful.
Good evening, Mayor. Oh, I gotta take this off. Good evening, Mayor Farrell and Council President Linda Kochmar and council members and members of the community. And I'm just here. I've lived in Federal Way for at least 32 years, so I think I'm not a native, but I think I feel comfortable and at home here. And I am very concerned as a member of this community and a member of this county and this state and this nation with all the cuts that are coming down from the federal level. And I bet there's not a person in this room who has not been affected in some way by the most recent cuts and those that are coming down the pike. We've all been affected by this. And this will lead to greater impacts and need for service in our community. So I'm glad to see the hotels, the permanent supported housing, and the shelter housing is on its way. In the meantime, there will be I think the impacts, we have no idea what those impacts are going to be. And so what I would request is that you think seriously about keeping what you have as you think about adding other things. And I ask you to consider funding the day center, to keep that service going, because we're going to see more homeless people, more people with mental health issues, because the pressures are extreme. And I think we all feel those pressures in one way or another. So I hope you will give that strong consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anna Patrick.
Evening, Mayor and Council and public. I just have a quick comment about South King County Housing, SKHHP, whatever it stands for. I see it's on the agenda tonight, and I hope I notice I look on the website since I saw it on the agenda. It looks like there's a lot of other cities now that have joined, and in addition to what we had before, it seems. And it'd be, I think last time you guys voted on this, or a while back, they were looking at cities where to put housing. There were proposals, and they were voting on which ones to fund. You know, they picked smaller homes and larger, or smaller housing complexes and larger housing complexes. And I would suggest that we suggest you look at their criteria. It looks like they just recently updated it. So if you haven't looked into it before you vote on whether or not we should stay joined with this coalition, that we look at what their criteria is for choosing housing, and we advocate for balance in South King County. I know there's not balance at the moment across the county. And then also, I think there was some need to collect data so that if we get MFTE housing, there's some sort of data that has to be collected and submitted to the state or something. And maybe this could be a service that they provide, or maybe they're starting to provide it. I think it'd be worth looking into. And then as far as that Evergreen Treatment Center, I'm very curious to know about that. Was that something the city came up with, or did we just get another proposal? And hopefully exploring the same issues that were brought up with the other one. And hopefully something where we're not just getting people just dropped off in our city, but because that can be really impactful and will have an effect, as was mentioned at the last meeting. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Brian, anything to add on Skip? Okay. Okay, all right, are there any more pink sheets? No one online?
Mayor? No.
Okay, thank you for everybody who came to give public testimony. All right, now we're on to presentations. We'll have a proclamation for the Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you very much. Would Maddie Nelson, King County Sexual Assault Research Center Legal Advocate Supervisor, go to the podium, please? I'll read the proclamation and then I'll bring it down to you. Proclamation, Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Whereas every 68 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted in the United States. And whereas sexual violence impacts everyone, yet disproportionately in Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, people living in poverty, LGBTQ+ people, elders, and people with disabilities. And whereas sexual assault is among the most underreported crime, and to end sexual violence requires a commitment to addressing racism, sexism, and all forms of oppression that contribute to the acts of sexual assault. And whereas survivors of sexual assault may never forget their victimization, but they can heal with support from family, friends, and their communities. And whereas by working together as a community, we can alleviate the trauma of sexual violence by ensuring supportive resources are available to all survivors, while standing up to and actively disrupting harmful attitudes and behaviors that contribute to sexual violence. Now therefore, we the undersigned mayor and city council members of the City of Federal Way do hereby proclaim April 2025 to be Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of Federal Way, and commit to a safer future for all children, young people, adults, and families in our community. Signed this first day of April 2025.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Maddie Nelson, and I'm a legal advocacy supervisor with the King County Sexual Assault Resource Center, KSARC. KSARC is a nonprofit that serves the city and all communities throughout King County. I also live here in Federal Way. I'm here to accept the Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month proclamation on behalf of our organization. Thank you for being a part of the solution to sexual violence. First, to the survivors in our community, I want to say you are not alone. Sexual assault is common. Half of the women and 1/3 of men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime. People from marginalized community due to disability, race, or ethnicity, or their gender or sexual identity, to name a few, are even greater risk. Chances are that you know someone who have been sexually abused. The trauma of sexual assault is something that can affect the survivor's mental, physical, and emotional behavioral health. Their ability to form healthy relationships, remain in school or at workplace, and so much more. But recovery from trauma of sexual assault is possible with support. KSARC assisted 4,300 individual survivors and their families members in the last year alone. Almost half of KSARC clients are teens and children. We know young people are the most vulnerable to sexual assault and the least likely to speak out about it and be believed when they do. I want to end this with another message to survivors. Free and confidential help is available to survivors or anyone who needs information about sexual assault. Our 24-hour resource line is a good start point at 1-888-99-VOICE. We always say we can change what we can talk about. Thank you for your leadership and willingness to be loud about sexual assault. And I'm really happy to live in a city that's willing to be the solution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the work that you and your colleagues do every day. Item 7, Council Committee and Regional Committees report. Parks, Recreation, Human Services, and Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Walsh.
All right, we were scheduled for a meeting April 8th, 1 week from today at 5 p.m., but John Hutton and I have decided to cancel all the rest of the meetings for the rest of the year. It'll go directly to council. Hold on, well, we're reversing that by before midnight tonight on April 1st, so anyway. No, there will be a council meeting, or a committee meeting April 8th, 5 p.m. right here. I think John was in favor of canceling them, actually.
You were reading my mind.
So, also, once again, a reminder of Parks Appreciation Day. It's coming up on the 26th, and hope to have many of you out there at one of the 3 parks that will be made more beautiful because of that. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, Land Use and Transportation Committee, Councilmember Dovey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Our next meeting is going to be April 7th at 5 p.m. here in the council chambers. Tonight we have a few things that have come through land use that are ordinances that we'll be passing at the end of the meeting, and our next upcoming meeting is going to be quite a few project completion votes to actually pay the people who did the work, and then we'll be talking about some recycling issues, sound transmitted and street abatement, and project completions.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Finance, Economic Development, Regional Affairs Committee, otherwise known as FEDREC, Councilmember Tran.
I'll actually be taking Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Paul McDaniel will report out on my behalf. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember McDaniel.
Yeah, FEDREC met on March 25th. Tonight's consent agenda has 9 items, B through J for the most part, mostly finance reports, a couple IT items, parks, a couple items for community development too. Our next meeting will be April 22nd at 5 p.m. in the council chambers.
All right, thank you very much. Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, LTAC, Councilmember Sefadasan.
Thank you, Mayor. All the positions on LTAC are now completely filled, so we're excited. Our next meeting is April 8th at Halibos, where we're going to be talking about getting updates from all the previous TEG funded programs, as well as a finance report from our finance director here. So on April 8th, next Tuesday at 2 p.m. here at High Levels. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Regional Committees report. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. Several council members and I attended the city chamber discussion on the sign code. The sign code is being updated, and I'm very excited about that. It has been a long time coming to do the work to update the sign code. It was an interesting discussion at the chamber, and I hope that the public and the business community continue to stay involved in that. I attended a ribbon cutting for the OCD Anxiety Centers here in Federal Way. They're located off of 336. They've been here for about a year, and they have clients come from all over. They had a young man who is here from Oregon for treatment and has been here since the fall. His family is renting an Airbnb. So it was a very interesting ribbon cutting, and it's nice to know that they chose Federal Way. They have several locations throughout the country and chose Federal Way for their location. I attended the ribbon cutting for the new bus loop, and what I want to say about that is I'm disabled. I've used disabled parking now since I was injured in May of 1990, and sometimes if I can't find parking that's close enough, I don't go into the building or whatever. It's just if I can't walk that far. When I got to the ribbon cutting, I drove through the entire parking garage, couldn't find any parking that was reasonably close to a disabled spot. Did find a parking spot that I was allowed to park at by the security there. And I know our Councilmember Sefa Dawson couldn't find parking, and she chose to not attend the ribbon cutting. However, on Saturday, my husband and I went to look at the public art over at the bus loop, and we found the disabled parking. And if you come off of 320th, there's a little tiny road, and it goes up to disabled parking, and I counted at least 20 spots. So for now, I'm very happy it's there. It's really close to where the buses are. I'm hoping that there's some signage over in the garage that lets people know that it's where the disabled parking is, because it is a long walk from the garage to where the bus loop is. So I'm hoping that Sound Transit has made that notice available so those who need that parking can use that parking. I also attended the first Ukrainian community meeting. They're talking about having meetings once a month. I don't know how that would work, but at my table we had people from Bothell and Redmond, so it sounds like it will be more of a regional community meeting, which is cool. The folks from Bothell and Redmond said they don't have the tight-knit community that we have down here, and they were very happy to be a part of it. I want to talk once again about this Senior Health and Resource Fair. It's Thursday, May 15th from 10 to 1 p.m. It's free. It's at the Performing Arts and Event Center. And this is really a neat event. It's our third year. The Senior Advisory Commission works really hard all year to put this on. We have, 60 or more vendors. And even if you're not a senior, but you have a senior in your life, or you plan on being a senior one day, there's something there for you. Because, you need to plan, right, to be a senior. You really do. And so there is something there that you could learn, and I would encourage everyone who has time available on Thursday, May 15th, from 10 to 1 to just drop in and see what is there for you, because there is something there for you that'll help your life. And to council members, AWC is sending out a lot of emails right now about signing on to bills, letting your legislators know one way or another. So look at your email and see if you want to do support the bills that they're asking for support. Thank you.
All right, Council President report.
Thank you, Mayor. I see that Rose and Dave Eel are in the audience along with Vicki Chenoweth, and so thank you for all of the hard work you've done on our farmers market, and Carla is here too. So Vicki and Carla are going to take over that farmers market starting May 10th on behalf of the city. Thank you very much. Looking forward to it. And that's what such a community building get-together, that is. Everybody on Saturday looks forward to going to the farmer's market and meeting up with friends and talking and buying their fresh fruits and vegetables. And it's a good place for our folks who get the WIC coupons to go as well. So it's a wonderful thing for us.
And the donut machine.
Well, that's kind of, we're talking about that, sir. Are you going to be doing that?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Exactly. Jim's Donuts.
We've got to make sure that donut machine works, Dave.
Exactly.
They're the tiny little donuts, and everybody loves them, so thank you. We were talking about that this morning. So thank you to Bill Vadino, who's taking over this whole project, and Susan and I were on the meeting with him this morning talking about this whole issue. Also, I want to say at the bus loop, I think our lamp is up there, the new art for the Sound Transit. If you want to go by there, you can see styled after a Tiffany lamp, which is a lot more elegant than the elephant standing on one foot with the tail up in the air.
On a dead tree.
On a dead tree that you would walk underneath and not get a good view. So we're very happy to have the Tiffany lamp fixture rather than that. And so when people come to Federal Way, they can say, well, go meet under the lamp instead of the elephant. It was the vision of the tail in the air that kind of. All right. And then we did open the bus loop, but what I'm getting around to is next year, this time, 2026, we're going to be opening the light rail. And that's going to be just in time for World Cup. And the World Cup event that's coming to Seattle, I think it's 750,000 people are going to be descending on this region from all over the world. Soccer, I think it's called football in Europe, but it's huge. And it'll be coming to our city, to our region, and people will be coming to Federal Way to stay here, and they will be using light rail. And so just so you know, that's going to be, our grand opening will be this time next year for the Sound Transit Link light rail. And finally, we have been working hard. There were people who wanted us to work with the school board members, and it took us quite a while to get those meetings going. Jack Walsh, Councilmember Walsh, Councilmember Hanna, and I have been working hard on those meetings. You had that meeting at Ebony and Ivory last Saturday, where quite a few people showed up for that. Thank you to the people who came. We're continuing with our collaborative meetings. We've got a new date coming up, and we'll be having another event for all of you to come. That's a good time for you to come to contact your council members and your school board directors in a very informal event and talk to them about concerns that you have. So we're working hard. Let us know. Give us emails. Let us know what you think about those events. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. All right, now we're moving on to item 8, the consent agenda. These items have gone through committee, can be passed all at once. I'll read all the items and then ask if council members would want items pulled for separate consideration. Prior to tonight's meeting, I did receive an email from Councilmember Daniel pulling items E and H. So I just want to note that before we get started. So item A. Minutes for the March 18th, 2025 regular and special meeting minutes. B, monthly financial report, February 2025. C, AP vouchers 2/16/25 through 3/15/25 and payroll vouchers 2/1/25 through 2/28/25. D, server cluster replacement. Item E, again to be pulled for separate consideration, Safe City Cameras, purchase of new cameras. F, City Council Chambers AV upgrade request to bid. G, tree service request for bids. H, again to be pulled, approval to hire FTE, that's a full-time equivalent employee, capital projects manager funded by King County Parks levy. I, resolution authorizing the allocation of funds in accordance with the 2024 South King Housing and Homelessness Partners, also known as SKIP, SKHHP Housing Capital Fund. And item J, resolution 2025 fee schedule adjustment, fee schedule amendment. All right, other than items E and H for separate consideration, Councilmember Honda?
F, please.
F,
City
okay.
Council Chambers upgrade request to bid.
Okay.
Okay,
yes.
Make the motion for the others.
Okay. And it's been moved by the council president to move items A, B, C.
No, I haven't.
I'm sorry.
You've been talking a lot, but I haven't done it yet.
All right, all right.
Okay, thank you. So I make the motion to move items A through D and item G.
Second.
What about I and J?
Yep. And I and J. Second.
All right, all right. It happens when you stop talking. All right. All right, there's been a motion, a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, matters passed unanimously. Let's, item E, Safe City Cameras, purchase of new cameras. Thomas?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, Council President, council members. I'm assuming there's questions?
No, my only question I have on that one is when we had this conversation earlier, it was brought forward to FEDRAC. My concerns on this one is we're building out infrastructure with grant money. It's either use it or lose it kind of concept. And I'm not a fan of building out infrastructure that's going to have additional funds required to keep it in place. I'm okay with using the money for replacing of the cameras and stuff, but I think instead of advancing the system itself, I thought it was a better policy to find out if the blue light cameras that are currently not operational need to be fixed, if the money could be used for that instead.
Okay, to answer your question, I did pull up the LCP Safe City cameras, the request that the city made to the legislature back in 2020. And it was specifically for adding Safe City cameras to expand the infrastructure, to specifically what we called out as eight intersections, which are the ones that I had listed on the agenda bill.
Gotcha. So replacing the cameras, does that still slide underneath of that then?
Yeah, I mean, we were as part of this grant request, we were asking to expand it, and so specifically I'd called out intersections, and so what we're trying to do, and the reason I put the replacement ones on there is see if we can actually get it done with the budget that we have. If we can, great. If not, you know, because again, there's a lot of moving parts with tariffs and other moving costs here. So that's why I was trying to get council's kind of blanket approval to see how much I can get out of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No problem with that. Appreciate your answers. And then my thing on that one again is I'm not into a surveillance state. And I feel like this starts to push too much of a surveillance state. And again, we're building infrastructure that we don't, in my mind, have the funds to maintain in the future. So it's build it and then tax to get it fixed. And that's not I don't like that. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you very much. Councilor Rendovy?
I just move that we vote for item E.
That's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion. Second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Mayor, can I clarify that motion?
Yeah.
Was that a motion to vote or a motion to approve the item?
Approve the item.
Thank you.
All right. Anna? Can you run the roll call, please?
Sure. I have Council President Kochmar.
Aye.
Council President, Council Member Asefa Dawson.
Aye.
Council Member McDaniel.
Nay.
Council Member Honda.
Aye.
Council Member Tran.
Aye.
Council Member Walsh.
Aye.
Council Member Dovey.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Stay close, Thomas. All right, item F, City Council Chambers AV upgrade request to bid. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. So when we were talking about this at FEDRAC, I'm glad we're getting it done. I'm glad we'll have new monitors. I know people can actually see what we're doing. And I understand, as much as some of us would have liked more work done in here, I can understand why that won't happen. However, we talked about where we would hold meetings for the 2 months when this work is being done. And it was suggested that we would be online. And I believe Councilmember Dovey and I didn't really support that.
We strongly agree to meet in person.
You might like my idea then. I was watching a council meeting down in California of a friend of mine who became mayor down there, and they do a little celebration. Well, it's a big celebration when they get new council members and the mayor is elected. And instead of at City Hall, they held it in their Performing Arts Center, and they do it every year. And I saw their Performing Arts Center is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful, as well as ours. But I was thinking that would be a perfect place to hold council meetings. You've got the PA system, you've got the seats. They had the council on the stage, and then they had a table for the staff. And I thought it worked really well. And they do it every year there. So I really want us to be accessible to the public, and by holding meetings online, we're not as accessible. So if we have locations that we could go to hold our meetings during this time, I think we should explore those and make it happen. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. And where'd John go? Oh, there we go. We could have him at the community center as well, correct?
Potentially, however, we have ongoing programs and bookings in that room, so that the Performing Arts Center may be the better option, depending on what's available there.
Okay. Well, and Thomas, how many meetings are we going to need to, I agree that we want our meetings to be in person. How many meetings do you think we'll need to facilitate this?
We're effectively taking this room out of commission for about 60 days.
Okay, starting when?
Starting, that's depending on when the bids come back, and we get timelines and all that. So I will have that to be determined.
You know, since we don't do a second meeting in August, it would be beneficial.
That would be, that's what we're going to put in the bid, is that's preferred date. But again, it depends on whether or not equipment availability and whoever the winning contractor would be to do the work, their schedule.
Okay. Well, Council, you have a commitment from me that we will find space in the city. We will, and we'll be in communication and partnership with you about where we do it. I'll make sure we wrestle John, not only his parks, but his facilities, everybody. And so, and with Thomas, we'll find a good space, but it'll be in person.
And our committee meetings can be in the Hylobus where they used to be.
Right. Yeah. So we can do the committee meetings there. We'll find space, you guys. You know, I like the idea.
Unless the Hylobus is tied up.
So the only objection I would make to Hylobus is it is not conducive to video recording.
Oh, true.
So you guys can be on Zoom with a webcam, for that accessibility component for us, but it wouldn't necessarily be with all the cameras. And same thing with our council meetings. We don't have we would have to bring in a lot more additional cost. If it's something that we can discuss with the mayor, how much we want to take on.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't necessarily need to be in the, if we're over at the PAC, we'll figure out, obviously, yes.
I'll just say, we can do in person on Zoom at the same time in order to get your recordings. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so in the Hylobus room, the theory behind councils wanting to broadcast committee meetings originally was to do it in the Hylobus room. And with the Hylobus room, it doesn't really, the cameras and the microphones in there did not work the way that we had originally intended in 2004 when we built this building.
But if we all have our Zooms turned on our iPads, would that work, just muting them?
That creates more problems. So we can do it. It will be something, we'll have a better web camera system in the Hylobus room by that point anyway, so we'll take care of that. So that won't be a problem. When it comes to having a meeting live at the PAC, there will be some sacrifices that we're going to have to make unless we add a whole bunch of equipment and bring in things. So again, I think the mayor and I can do some estimations, figure out what it's going to cost, and kind of figure out kind of set the expectation. But we can go live at the PAC if we need to. It's just not on Channel 21.
Very good.
It would just be rebroadcasted later.
And this is going to be subject to availability of the Performing Arts and Events Center. Councilmember Dubby?
I was just going to suggest, doesn't Lake Haven and the fire department have rooms that they have meetings, and maybe we could do committee meetings there or something, and
Lake Haven,
at least ask them.
I don't think Lake Haven doesn't have broadcast ability. I don't believe that would work. They have a room, but I don't think they broadcast. So if we just do a meeting, whether it's at the community center or the PAC, and then put it on YouTube right away, that's pretty much what the school district does.
Yeah, so that
gives people the ability to come to a meeting at a specific location and testify.
Correct. With the equipment that we have right now, the only place to go live out of this would be this building, this room. But what we can do is we can go live on YouTube, we can go live on right. Zoom, and then we can just record and rebroadcast for later viewing on Channel 21.
Councilor Ronda?
I just think it's important that we're accessible to the people, and 60 days without being accessible is not a good idea.
Without a public meeting.
Right.
Right, I agree. We're not going to do that.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
Yeah, but having, wherever we are, if we have to have our iPads with us, you know, to be able to do Zoom, that would work fine, and still have people come talk.
Happy, I'll work on the logistics, and then we'll come up with a plan, and I'll present it to the mayor, and we'll go from there.
Councilor Ndobe, did you have?
So, want me to move this?
Yeah, please.
Consent agenda, item F, City Council Chambers AV upgrade request to bid. I move approval.
Second.
It's been a motion, and a second. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passed unanimously. Item H, approval to hire a full-time equivalent employee for capital projects manager funded by the King County Parks Levy. Councilor McDaniel.
Yeah, and this one's kind of the same as the other one. It's a funding thing. I know we're taking it from the levy, but this person comes in, is it $12,000 or $14,000 a month?
That's correct.
Which one was, I don't remember which one.
It's a range, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Between $12,000 and $14,000,
Correct.
thank you. $200,000. I know it's, like I said, being funded by a levy and is a possibility for it, but when we talked about the projects, some of the projects mentioned were older ones, and some of the other ones are coming to be completed, hopefully, within the next couple of months. So I didn't feel that now was the right time with the sales tax, the REIT, and a lot of other taxes down to step forward with this one, knowing that the levy may or may not be there, or it might be used in a different place. So I'm against it just for that reason.
I assure you that the list is long of upcoming projects. I've been here and testified to you dozens of times over the last several years about our backlog of deferred maintenance projects throughout the entire system and including every single facility. We just can't even get to start them under our current bandwidth that we have today. And this position, I understand your concern, and we'll be very upfront with the candidate that there's not a guarantee past the end of 2026. However, one of the things in the job description that will be going out pending approval is this person will be a grant writer, and Director Walsh and Public Works have done a brilliant job over the years of finding grants that can help pay for staff, and so we might be able to offset some of that with this. And also, this person will be a skilled grant writer with success in their past, is the person we envision. An excellent grant writer, project manager, construction knowledge, all of the things that were in there, and I'm happy to read the qualifications if you need that. But this is crucially important to our department to try and get ahead, and we've waited for this, and we've squirreled away that King County money for these backlog of projects and a person that can manage those going forward, because it's just too much on the staff. These projects are massive on the lead up to them, and as the new maintenance facility attests, it's a year ahead of time, and then in some cases, especially for something as big as that. But our projects are still a couple of months ahead of time, and then the project itself, and then the closeout of the project, and then all the reporting, if there are grants available, and we would be writing grants for each of those programs to make our money go further.
Gotcha. My two comments on that one is the grants I didn't know about makes it interesting because we have a grant writer that we're paying for, so it's like we have 5 or 6 grant writing capabilities in the city and then an additional $100,000 grant writer, which makes no sense at the moment then. And the second one is, if it was this strong of a demand, then why wasn't it in the budget as a request? I mean, this
you asked me that question at the committee meeting.
Yeah.
And I told you that may have been a strategic error on my part, and if so, I certainly apologize and take full responsibility for that. It doesn't make it less important. We knew we had a funding source, and this funding source we felt was the best thing for the city with the pressures that are on the general fund, that we had a solution to move all these projects forward, help our city, help our infrastructure, to stay in the high quality that our citizens could come to expect and that we want to present to our citizenry and our visitors. And so we had a source for this and felt that it was the appropriate time to hit the levy for this and get it off the ground.
No problem.
And moving.
I appreciate your passion for your team.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Honda?
Thank you. So I was going to bring up the grant writer too. We have a contract with someone who I asked at FedRAC if we still have that contract, since we haven't had any reports since Tanya left, and I was assured we still have that person working for us.
We do.
But secondly, so I am concerned with taking money from this levy account, Parks levy account for this position, and only having the position guaranteed for 2 years. I am concerned about that. But you talk about this person moving forward with projects. Do we have the funding to move forward with any projects? I thought funding was really tight. So what exactly would the person do to move forward with projects?
Well, as I told you before, right now, we're sitting on about $1,300,000 in that levy. And so we have some money to get started on the projects that are going, and I believe you're going to see you will be seeing another presentation from me this evening about one of the types of projects we have. We just finished it up at the new John Connor Park, is the root damage that you've mentioned regarding the trees along West Campus. That happens in parks too, and they become trip hazards. And as I mentioned before, we had a person sitting up there with you who was attacked by one of those trails that jumped up and bit him, and he got hurt, and we can't have that, people getting hurt. So those are type of projects that we can get going on, and we do have funding for. It's just imagine trying to find the bandwidth within the workload for our current staff that we can get going on these projects, and yes, we do have funding.
Okay. So this person will find a project to do, find the funding, put staff together to do the project then? Or, I mean, this
Hire
person-
contractors.
Hire contractors to do
Right.
the project, and then manage the project.
So this may be helpful to the rest of the council who may not have seen this, or the people in the audience. Staff will seek an individual well-versed in construction, project management, contract development, plan review, permitting, presentations, community outreach, record keeping, budget, finance, budget and funding, grant writing and reporting, contracting, bidding, and scope development. So they'll be working hard with contractors. And one of the things with contractors, they're great, but you have to work with them. You have to be able to be on site and making sure that they're following through. And you're seeing, we've seen some of those projects, if you don't have the bandwidth to watch them closely and help them hit your needs, they can fall behind, and you can get off-time schedules and over budget quickly. And so this person would be also, working hard with those contractors to make sure they're on track and we're getting the best bang for our public dollar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Councilor Dovey?
Mayor.
Yeah.
Could I just clarify a couple of things with questions from Councilmember McDaniel and Councilmember Honda? Why was it not in the budget? I think this is important. So this position was on the waiting list and has been on the waiting list for some time now. It was not within our, it was not within the general fund to propose to the council this position, and so it was on the wait list of things that needed to be funded. After discussion with the Parks team and identifying the purpose of the levy fund, we felt it was appropriate to bring before the council this proposal to fund this position through levy fund, knowing that it may not be the ideal funding source, but it is a funding source for this position that is needed. Which leads to my second point, the job function will include everything that John talked about, but it's, Councilmember Honda, you asked about, is this going to be, is the position going to need more, if I understood you correctly, new projects to work on? And this position will basically, if there's new projects, great, but we have so many other projects that are being not done and prioritized or managed or just looked at to see if there's any efficiencies we could gain by doing more projects at the same time, and then just general maintenance of things. Things crop up that we surprise you with that you don't like and we don't like telling you about. This position will help, in theory, help abate that a little bit. And then a comment on the grant writer. The contract ended yesterday, and we are assessing whether or not to renew that, and we'll bring some information to the council for your consideration to see, based on the performance thus far, if this is an effective use of funds to continue this.
All right. Councilor Dovey.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment on this item. One, I don't believe that this position is going to do any grant writing based on the amount of work we're hearing they're going to do. I do think that we should take this approach. We do this in swim, where we hire people in our swim department through the process of that funding. And this will actually, in my opinion, save us money. With tariffs coming in and inflation going crazy, the sooner we get the jobs done, the more money we save. But I really want to make sure this person, whoever it is, knows this is not funded after the biennium we're in right now, and they could be out of a job 2 years from now or a year and a half, and be very, very clear, because we may not have park funding to pay for it, or we may not want it in the general fund. But right now, if we hire the person, we have the ability to use these funds, we can speed up the projects so we can get them delivered, we will save money. The longer we wait to get something done, the more it's going to cost us. And so I'm going to support this, but only, in my mind, I don't think grant writing is going to even be a part of it, because what you're talking about is way more work than a grant writer, and that they know that this job may not be here after we get through this year and next year's budget.
All right, thank you. Councilmember McDaniel?
Lydia.
Councilmember Dawson?
Yeah, question for you. Do you know how much money we secured through the grant writers and how much we spent?
That's part of what we're going to bring to the council. I know there's been a lot of grants that have been found, but actual funding that is secured by the city is another question. And then the second question to that question is, of the money that has been secured, what does it go towards? Is it all external community building, economic development projects, or is it operations of the city, or a combination of both?
Thank you.
Councilor McDaniel.
Follow-up question on the grant. In the last budget we passed, did we not also include $100,000 per year for the 2 years on the budget for the grant writing? What was that? 95. Okay, so there is right now $190,000 set aside for grant writing underneath of economic development then?
I'll have to check for 26. I know it is for 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. That was it.
All right, Councilmember Walsh.
What Councilmember Dovey said, I fully support that. And if there's no further discussion, I'd love to make a motion.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I move approval of H. Item H, approval to hire FTE Capital Projects Manager funded by the King County Parks Levy.
Second.
Been a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Anna?
Council President Kochmar,
Aye.
Councilmember Asefa Dawson,
Aye.
Councilmember McDaniel,
Nay.
Councilmember Honda, Councilmember Tran,
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh,
Aye.
Councilmember Dovey,
Aye.
You want to?
the motion passes 7-1.
6-1.
Sorry, 6-1.
Very good. Okay,
I can
great.
count some days.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thanks, John. And thank you, Thomas. All right, item 9, council business. This is the approval of the 2025 City of Federal Way Farmers Market budget, in addition, a .85 FTE, of, again, full-time equivalent staff. We'll have a staff presentation by Bill Vidino remotely. Bill, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me? I'm ready to talk about the Federal Way Donut Market.
That's right. Jim's Donuts. We need a big sign. All right. Yes, we can see your. We can see.
And there's a lot of kudos that's already been spoken of, and of course the family's been very instrumental in this. Vicki Chenoweth, of course Brian Davis, and John Hutton, and the mayor, and the council members who have been giving us input. And then, of course, you're going to notice that the budget looks like Steve Groom's kind of bagpipe music. So that's his contribution to his too. And you need to realize his team is really figuring out what Carla has been doing, and Rose. It's amazing what they've done with all the paperwork with food security, because not only is this a public market, a farmer's market for people, it takes care of food security, and it's also our community gathering place 6 months a year. So kudos for their 21 years and the fact that we can do this transition. So anyway, the policy question before us is the City Council approved the 2025 City of Federal Way Farmers Market budget and the addition of .85 FTE staff. The options are approve the proposal with modifications, do not approve, and provide direction to staff. And the mayor's recommendation is approve. Keep in mind, this budget is a living document. So the financial impacts is that we believe we're going to land this revenue neutral and hopefully then invest in the market and not lose, but keep it revenue neutral. And there are a number of things in this budget. For instance, in this budget, it includes the cost for 0.58 FTE of 2 seasonal temp employees to manage the market. We've talked about them before. All financial transactions after your action today, starting tomorrow, would be under the purview of the city. Contracts, checks, deposits. And so tomorrow, if you approve this tonight or whenever you approve it, it will allow the event to go forward. And we will continue to revise this with your input as we move forward. So as you know, this has been a 21-year gem, and because of the family and their continued commitment, generational commitment, it's going to continue. And the market manager position will assist the city during the season. And of course, we'll have the second temporary employee who'll be responsible for events and assist the market manager. And that's how we come up with 0.85 FTE. These employees would be under the auspices of the mayor's office. Also, John Hutton's team will be assisting with setup and takedown and the monitoring of the event. And so that's also in the budget as well. And so, so far this budget assumes that it would be open Mother's Day, the day before Mother's Day through the end of October. That's what this budget has at this point in time. But like I said, it's a living budget.
And I do want to, Bill, if I could just interrupt, we're still evaluating whether we're going to continue past September into October. That's still sort of a decision point we need to think about. I want to give council just a heads up in the public. We haven't made a final decision whether it's going to go all the way through October because there have been issues with regard to revenue during that time. But the plan is on paper right now to push through October. But I want to just advise, as we're starting this adventure together, I want to make sure that we're very transparent about it. Go ahead, Bill.
And the other important piece is there's going to be a meeting Thursday of everybody, basically past board members. They're going to get together informally to sort of talk about the future, what they've liked, affirmed, and what they'd like to see in the future. And then that'll expand in a week to 2 weeks into a wider meeting with lots of people who are always involved with the meeting, with the market, including council, to sort of brainstorm where we go as we transition, not only this year to make this year grow, but then next year and the many years of possibilities. So anyway, so the projected income includes revenue and sponsors from last year. However, we have pending some sponsorships, and they're not in there until they arrive. It looks good like they're going to come, and I won't mention their names, but we will only budget when they arrive, and then we will figure out whether that just puts us further into more equipment or further into the black. Okay, so we'll keep you posted on that. Now, estimated expenses include the past and estimated costs. We've been able to decrease many of those expenses because we have our own insurance. We have our own finance team. There's a number of things that the EELS, as a small business, had to have. Someone to file their taxes, et cetera, et cetera. And so that has brought the expenses down considerably. For instance, another piece that I can show you at some point is waste management. We have a contract with them. The EELS needed to pay for waste management services. It's part of our contract. Our portable toilets contract is a better contract because of our of the kinds of events that John and EJ and others have. That is lesser as well too. So that has saved us money to bring it into break even at this point in time. And then, of course, in the budget is money allocated for needed equipment, tents, tables, chairs, staging. We're also looking at banners. As the picture continues to evolve, we're going to make sure we invest into the right kinds of things. And I did say staging too, didn't I? So that number will need to grow, but that will grow with how we do as a market. So anyway, current market offerings will continue. We're going to continue those great produce sponsorship, and that's about to be finalized by our hospital for seniors and children. The Taste of Federal Way fundraiser is a net contributor to not only the bottom line of this event, but also for the nonprofits that benefit. Shop local and then other events. There'll be a weekly food court, right now we're over 50 vendors. And now Carla has put together, a lot of people are enthused about having a food court of vendors. And of course, our health license will deal with that as well too. And of course, Vicki is looking at to up our entertainment to make it so that we're a destination because, you know, we are a community gathering place as well too. So, and as I mentioned, market and vendor renewals are on pace to duplicate last year's attendance, and that's great news. So this is the music for Steve's Bagpipe. That's available in your packet. I'm going to give you some summary here, but basically it's revenue in, revenue out. It's break even. We did put in here the money that comes in for all the food related programs does come in and it does exit. So that is now part of this budget. So when you look at past budgets for the market, there's a lower income and a lower expenses, but because that money is passing in and out, that's acknowledged. The other really important piece is Steve Groom's team is working with Carla, and it's amazing how Carla and Rose and others did this. The amount of paperwork and documentation with what's going on with the food stamp program, with the food money that's coming from the hospital, it's very well controlled, and Steve's people are also working to make sure that it fits within our finances as well too. So basically, income summary, there's booth rentals, and then they rent the space, and then we get a sales commission. And then there's the sales EBT and EBT matches for food. And the other piece here is not only do people put in their EBT card to get their tokens to buy the food from the farmers, and then they redeem them, the state in one section and the government in the other section also give additional coupons to these people that get redeemed and then returned and then flow through our financial system. So what they've been doing for food security has been absolutely amazing, but it belongs as a Harvard Business School example of finance as well too. And then of course there's sponsorship, there's the fundraising event, and so there's our total operating revenue. And then, of course, fixed expenses, licensing, setup equipments, event costs, permits, advertising. Some of these things we have kept where they are while we evaluate them. You know, the advertising for the Mirror. We're going to evaluate how we're doing what we're doing with the groups, with you all, and to make this work. So some things were left, and then of course, rents, utility maintenance is lower because we've got our waste management contract and other savings as well too. And then of course, salaries, we came in under with the under one FTE that we're discussing, as well as the people from the Parks Group and the benefit packages as well. And then of course, the operating expenses, you can see it there, entertainment of the DJs, supplies are for running the event, the merchant fees, the food situation, the vendor token payments, and so we come at it 0-0. So that's the, I'll be glad to sit with you all as this evolves, as we have the process to try to figure out where we want to go this year, how we want to grow it, acknowledge the money that comes in, but also acknowledge challenges. Like if we had a bad weather months, that's going to affect this bottom line, and this budget is going to stay even. It's going to stay revenue neutral. So with that, any questions?
Council, any questions? Councilor McDaniel.
Yeah, Bill, I have a question on how the EBT works. So I know how people use EBT to purchase something. Is the $10,000 worth of revenue an actual percentage the market keeps from the vendor who sold the product or the food then?
No, that's the money that goes in and out from EBT to the person who gets the food, and then that's their revenue. So basically, they cash their EBT card, it goes to the vendor, and then so it's an in and out. Now, I think you're asking something, and I'm a little bit fuzzy because I'm home, about if there's commission on that.
I'm just wondering when we have a $10,000.
Yeah, it's, and maybe Steve can semi-rescue me on this too, but basically it's an in and out, it's not a profit center.
Bill, this is Steve. Based on the past records that I think we used prior year data, when anybody uses an EBT card, we have to track that, and then we can submit to the state to get EBT matching. So that's just recording how they paid that qualifies for matching.
All right, and then the 20,000 that comes in, 20,000 goes out, so it zeroes it out then?
It does, and we have it set up, I believe, weekly, so that we can track week 1, week 2, week 3 if we've modeled this correctly. When we put together the pro forma, some things are weekly, some things are one time, some things are monthly, and then we have pay periods. So I think we're going to be able to track fairly early on to see if we're on track.
Gotcha. And my last question is, does this take in consideration the actual purchase of the assets?
No, it does not, but I'm hopeful that we can do well enough to grow the market and start covering those assets, but the right answer is no, it does not at this point with what's submitted.
All right, thank you.
I would have liked to have stretched it, but I didn't. I wanted to give you a real budget, not a blue sky kind of thing.
I prefer reality, thank you.
Right. You're welcome.
All right. Councilor Walsh, do you have a motion?
Yes. I move approval of the 2025 City of Federal Way Farmers Market budget and an addition of a .85 FTE to staff.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes unanimously. We're in business. Rose, David, we'll take it from here. Carla and Vicki, thank you so much. And Rose and David, we're going to need your expertise and guidance and advice and partnership. So thank you. And so glad to have Carla and Vicki along as well. And once again, Bill, thank you very much. Bill, you're free to turn off your computer. I think you're done for the evening.
Well, I don't know. I think this is going to get better Nielsen ratings than what's on TV tonight. So let's see. Thank you.
All right. Okay, with that, now we're on to item B, resolution expressing jurisdictional support of the proposed crisis care center to be sited in the city and operation by Emerald City Behavioral Health. Let's see here. Ryan Cole, City Attorney.
Good evening, everybody. Just as a preliminary matter, this the agenda was amended because the original items that were in the packet were inaccurate. So there were some assumptions that it was, we heard some of that from public comment, that it sounded like people thought this was exactly the same thing that was presented by Connections at the last meeting. That is not the case. This is a separate proposal, and it's actually for a different function. So if you've not already got the printed materials that are in the back of the room, they are in the back of the room, and they explain that a little better. So to begin with, Mayor, I believe that we should probably hear from Mr. Clark from Evergreen City Behavioral Health. Emerald City Behavioral Health, if that's okay.
Oh, very good. Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Clark?
Let me pull up your thing real quick.
I should note this was placed on the agenda at the request of 3 council members, Councilmember Honda, Councilmember Tran, and Councilmember McDaniel.
Sorry, this is a bit of a process here. It's a show, isn't it?
Mr. Clark, how many slides do you have?
I have 14, but I'm going to run through them, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, great. Okay.
Okay. All right, good evening, Mayor, council members, and community members. My name is Michael Clark, and I serve as the COO for Emerald City Behavioral Health. We're headquartered in Tacoma, Washington. I want to begin by thanking you for your time tonight and for allowing me the opportunity to share something that I believe has the power to change lives, not just somewhere else, but right here in Federal Way. I'm here today to present Emerald City Youth Services, a program that doesn't just respond to crisis, but helps prevent it from ever happening in the first place. So a little bit about Emerald City Behavioral Health. We are designated by the Healthcare Authority as an intensive residential treatment team provider, IRT, That means that we specialize in treating the most complex cases of mental health. This is what we're familiar with, is keeping folks stable. We don't serve crisis. We like to get ahead of it. A little bit about me. I have a master's in counseling, leadership, and I've spent the last several years developing programs, opening facilities, and pushing for policy reform. That's really what I do when it comes to mental health, is find ways where people can access mental health and find what works. So let me share the vision of Emerald City Youth Services. Do we get sound on here, Mr. Mayor? Does anyone know? No?
Colby?
We can keep going. I know we're pressed for time. Let's keep going. So, it sounds like 822-333. Yeah.
1 second.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Colby, let's see if we can. Yeah.
Video? Yeah.
This is Colby.
When a young person
Thank you. All right, let's try this again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
needs support for depression, anxiety, trauma, or addiction, they deserve care that's close, compassionate, and effective. Families are turned away, teens fall through the cracks, and the outcomes are heartbreaking. Emerald City Youth Services is here to change that. Located in Federal Way, our center will open 94 treatment beds, including short-term, long-term, and detox services, designed specifically for youth facing mental health and substance use challenges. But we're more than a facility. We're building a full continuum of care, outpatient therapy, family support, peer mentorship, and occupational services, all in one place. This is where healing begins, where families get their children back, and where young people rediscover their future. Help us build it. Support Emerald City Youth Services, because every child deserves a chance to heal.
So the property that we're discussing is right across the street, 822 333rd Street. We're not asking you to imagine a future building. It's that building. It's your neighbor. The facility's already here. It's secure. It's ADA compliant. It's professionally remodeled for behavioral health use. And it's my understanding that there's been several other operators who have attempted to put crisis stabilization centers there. It looks like it could be an evaluation and treatment center, lockdown facilities with police drop-off. And when I first saw this building, I will say this, I saw the residential area in the back, and I said, there's no way that anybody wants a crisis stabilization center here. I can see where the community had concerns. But I have been looking for a place where we can do this project. And this is about treatment. This is about serving your community. This isn't about becoming a dumping ground for Federal Way. There's an outpatient clinic that's included. That's gonna treat your families. That's not gonna be folks coming anywhere else. That's gonna be people anybody with children who maybe they have cognitive issues, maybe they have drug issues, maybe they want occupational, vocational training. That will be available to families, and that's really for your community. That's for no one else. No one else is going to be able to come anywhere else except from your community for that. The proximity to City Hall really reflects what it is that we believe in, which is transparency, accountability, and partnership with the city and community. So, as I said, it was originally intended to be a crisis stabilization center, but the project it's stalled due to lack of local support without you folks, without the community. Without that buy-in, reimbursement for services hasn't been able to happen and the doors have stayed shut. So an RTF is the typical 16-bed facility when it comes to crisis stabilization, whether it's an evaluation and treatment center, a crisis respite. 16 is kind of the magic number. Now, unlike any other project, this is not going to be a 16-bed facility. This, as I mentioned, is going to be 94 beds. It offers a secure detox. It offers long-term residential care. It offers short-term residential care. And it also offers outpatient for families as a full continuum of care. How, well, for RTF, sorry, it's regulated by the IMD law. And the IMD law basically says you have to stay at 16 if you want to receive federal funding. And managed care here is who is responsible for that. The reason why folks can't get reimbursed in that facility without your guys' buy-in is because King County acts as kind of the managed care for itself and plays middleman. And so we as a provider would be partnering with King County, who would then reimburse us. And without local buy-in, we're unable to get that funding. So what I'm proposing is a psychiatric residential treatment facility, PRTF. There is not one of these in our state. Very few states have them, and this is under a waiver that Washington has been approved for. This allows us to treat youth under 21 years of age and not be stuck at 16 and still receive the funding that we need through Medicaid. So why Federal Way? 3 key reasons. First, the building's already ready, allowing us to launch sooner than other locations. Second, the community need is urgent. We're all talking about mental health. It's kind of the buzzwords right now, and has been. And third, it really gives Federal Way the opportunity to lead this region and the state in how we respond to youth mental health. This facility will bring 100+ high-paying jobs to your community. And full transparency, my full-time provider now, who makes a lot more than me, lives in Federal Way and is already contributing to your city. So I love Federal Way. Families visiting their children who are active along the whole continuum of care, they're going to be staying in your hotels. They're going to be here along with their children. We are in network with commercial providers and as well as Medicaid. So this isn't just about Medicaid. There may be someone who has Evernorth or Carelon or any of our other contracted insurance carriers. They might be traveling for short-term residential. They'll be staying, spending money in your city. And more than that, there'll be millions of dollars that are invested through Medicaid funneled right here. So, when crisis hits and a youth ends up in an ER or a police car, it's usually the end of a long road filled with missed chances for earlier intervention. Yeah, that's usually what ends up happening. Emerald City Youth Services flips that script. We prevent crisis, and when crisis does occur, our outpatient team helps return youth to their baseline and avoid future system involvement. If someone's not insured, a family's not insured, then we offer scholarships. We don't turn people away just because because they don't have the right insurance. Everybody deserves to have equitable and quality care, especially children. So let's address some concerns, because I feel like that's the big thing. This is not a drop-in shelter. People are not dropping people off from other counties and saying, see ya. Youth will not be wandering your streets without guidance and oversight. They will have planned outings. They will be under clinical supervision. Most youth are referred through a formal process from a clinician, a hospital, court system, or school. But if a youth does arrive in distress, we don't turn them away. Our case managers and care teams step in immediately to connect them with the appropriate services, so we can stabilize the situation and then, of course, prevent further deterioration. The facility is secure, staffed staffed 24/7 by licensed professionals, and all programming is structured, monitored, and trauma-informed. We will have a staff ratio, of 1 to 4, which is by far way more than the industry standard of, I want to say, 1 to 6. So there will be a lot of staff in this facility, including 24/7 security personnel. You guys have your paths and trails that are right there along the back. I've seen them they're tagged in some spaces. Having a security that does rounds right there very well would likely prevent that from occurring. It should actually increase safety, if anything, just having that security that's always present, without having to engage local law enforcement and have more calls. So our outpatient clinic will offer scheduled intentional care, not open or unsupervised site visits. And then we also work with local schools, we work with law enforcement and families, and we don't work against them. So our goal is simple. We want to help youth before they become a crisis on someone else's caseload. Our request to the city. So under state law, this type of essential facility, it doesn't really require local approval. But Emerald City does not operate that way. We only serve where we are welcomed. We know there's a need, but we also know that if the community isn't invested, then it's going to fail anyways, because it's ultimately your community that benefits from the program the most. Emerald City Behavioral Health would be honored to work with you to make Federal Way a statewide model for what youth behavioral health should look like. Because I'll be honest, this isn't just about opening a new facility. This is about working together to strengthen our families and support lasting change in our communities. We're not here for profit, we're here for people. And with your support, Federal Way becomes the first city in Washington to lead the way in youth mental health reform. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, Council. Councilmember Seffa-Dawson.
Yeah, thank you for this presentation. It's well thought out, and I appreciate it, what
Thank
you
you.
said. And I think our youth are underserved in a lot of areas, so this makes sense. One question is, do you, I know nobody gets turned away, but in terms, if they don't qualify for Medicaid, what's the billing like, and is there any kind of charity care or free service?
Absolutely. On a case-by-case basis, especially within the community where we're working, we're going to have scholarships available. We will never turn anyone away. Having an outpatient clinic that is open for more than 8 hours a day allows us to bring folks in, assess them, and if they don't have insurance or they don't have the coverage, we're not going to turn anybody away.
But they'll be billed, or is that going to be like
No,
a scholarship?
absolutely not.
Okay.
No bill, especially not for children and families. You know, it's hard enough when folks need help, especially people with their kids. They're already desperate for help, and we definitely wouldn't want to turn them away for that reason or send them a bill.
Okay. And then 10 beds, is it that are, if you could go back several slides.
Use this still, all right?
Huh? Okay.
It's 94, right?
So total 94?
Mhm.
And how many qualify for Medicaid?
All of them.
Okay, there's, which one is it?
So this type of facility, I think I know what you're asking. So being a psychiatric RTF,
That.
yes. So under the IMD law, if the primary function is mental health and it serves youth under 21 years of age, then we can work with the Department of Health, which I'm currently doing, and doing it right, we can house more than that magic number of 16, and that's what allows us to do this work and receive funding.
So you receive funding for 16 then?
No, so because it's a PRTF versus an RTF, we're able to get funded for all of the beds because we treat youth under 21 years of age.
So what's the distinction then?
Well, the RTF is a residential treatment facility, and that goes by that 16 rule. So if the primary function is to serve mental health patients that are adults, then it wouldn't be able to qualify for the waiver. But because it treats youth and its primary function is mental health, the youth is really the key, then we're able to use the waiver so that we can be funded and receive Medicaid funding.
For all?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Walsh, then Councilmember Dovey.
A few questions. One with the funding. Is this, the funds from the county the same source as what the previous request was a couple of weeks ago?
Are you referring to the grant funds, Councilman?
Yeah, the crisis care that we had them. Connections. Is it the same source of funding from the county?
Well, we did apply for a grant. However, we're not relying on the grant to necessarily launch operations. But as far as funding goes, the funding I'm referring to is for the Medicaid reimbursement for the services that we're able to offer to more than 16 of the clients.
Okay, so so a lot of it Medicaid. Right now, I know that on the national level, there's a lot of questions about Medicaid funding.
Sure.
And what happens if Medicaid funding drastically changes, which it easily could?
Then we will change right along with it. The need is definitely here. We'll work with foundations. We'll work with private donors as we continue to do in our work with Emerald City and other areas. We'll seek other revenue. When I say that this isn't about profits, it's about people, that's exactly what I mean. And so, you know, once we're in the door, figuring that part out and maintaining it and sustaining it is exactly what we'll do.
Okay. And so you say 94 beds. I mean, looking at it, it doesn't look like there's room for 94 beds, plus all the other offices and whatever things you have. I mean, and you say that it's already, one of the advantage of it is already equipped and set up.
Yeah.
But it's not set up for 94 beds.
No.
And so how are you going to do that?
Yeah. You sound like my developer, Councilman. You know, I walked in, I saw a majority of it was for the 16 beds. So I walked in, I saw it, and all I saw was the potential of how to do it. So we add a second floor in both of the units, and that pretty much does it. And then we open it up. We don't need an egress in the middle because that's more of a lockdown inside, you know, kind of the jail-like. It's a different situation, especially with youth. And so opening up the middle area, combining the two units, adding the upstairs, that's a lot easier as far as a build would go from the ground up.
Okay, so you're going to be doing a lot of major remodeling there, so it probably wouldn't open for a year or two?
I would say 1 year.
Okay. You know, you said that at first you're saying, hey, it's for the youth right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're saying that, hey, there will be families coming from other places that'll be staying at hotels here. That indicates it's for youth for all over, not right here.
Correct. So the residential, so there's short-term residential. So there's an average stay for short-term. It's going to be 30 to 90 days. For long-term, it's when we need 90 days to 9 months. And so those types of treatment, that's kind of the top of the treatment. And there's education that's going along with that treatment, of course. That's where folks will send their youth and where families will be visiting, because we really include the families in that type of therapy. As far as the outpatient level go, that primarily belongs to the community.
Okay. You know, obviously there's a need. Very obviously there's a need. You know, now you say that you need, in order to get funding, you need the buy-off from the city. Why is that?
Well, through King County Integrated Health Network, there's a contingency, and I would say it's fairly smart, where if you want to work and be contracted with King County Integrated Health Network, then you need to have the support and buy-in of you fine folks. And so it opens up the revenue stream for reimbursement of the services.
Okay. What kind of history does Emerald City Behavioral Health have? I mean, you told a little bit about yourself. How long has Emerald City Behavioral Health been around? What have you done? What's your track record? I mean, you're asking us you're asking us stuff.
Yeah.
But we really don't know anything about you other than just what you've presented right here.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't think even if we sat here for the next hour that I could tell you enough. But for this, I would like to invite my CEO up to talk about where Emerald City started, if you don't mind.
We could do that in a few minutes.
Claudia?
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
All
We'll do
right.
that in a few minutes.
Okay.
We're going to come back to that.
Okay.
I
We'll come back
guess
to
that my final comment is
Yeah.
that you know, obviously there's a need. You know, I think there are some advantages over the crisis clinic and everything. But to me, for us to make a decision tonight without more investigation,
sure,
it seems premature.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we were able to do some investigation and then come back in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, I mean, if it's going to take you a year to open it, you know, 2 to 4 weeks shouldn't make a difference as far as something from us.
Absolutely, and I'm not pressing any of you for time. As I mentioned, I would rather gain your trust and your support and maybe invite you to the facility and show you what the vision looks like, allow you to get to know us, actually, you know, see the plans. I'm not great with public speaking, and so I would like the opportunity to meet with you and share more with you guys, so absolutely.
All evidence to the contrary. You're doing a great job.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
All right, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Dovey, and then we'll have Councilmember Honda, and then Councilmember McDaniel. And then Councilmember McDaniel, Honda, and then the Council President.
Thank you for coming before us, but I think I have a few questions. And I think I heard that you said the average stay in the facility is between 30 days and 9 months?
Yes.
So how many of the 90-some beds are 30 to 90 days or 30 to 60 beds, and how many are the 9 months or the long ones? What's that ratio look like?
Absolutely. So there's 60 short-term residential, so those are going to be your 30 to 90. Typically, you know, that's when we hear about 28-day inpatient. So that's going to be 60 of those. There'll be 24 long-term beds that are available for you know, teens that need a little extra support. Maybe that they're 17, they want to get their GED, they're looking for vocational skills, they need the long-term, and there'll be 24 of those. For youth that arrive and they need detox, then we will have 10 beds available. Now, the length of stay there is usually 4 to 10 days. And of course, everything's overseen in this facility by a physician, but I really want to emphasize, this is not a hospital.
Got it.
This is a treatment center.
So would it be right in assuming the short-term beds are more for people that are in Federal Way, and the long-term beds are people that may come from Spokane or somewhere else because they know about your services and they want to take advantage of them? Is that kind of how the ratio would kind of look, in your opinion? Because I can't believe we have 24 9-month people. Maybe we do in Federal Way. I see it more as a short-term, and then you got long-term, two different groups.
So through my work with Coordinated Care, I'll tell you this, we have 20,000 alone kids in foster care in the state,
Sure.
and there is a large amount of them that are right here in King County.
Right.
For this type of treatment, we have sent many of these kids out of state. 18 of them are currently lost. And this isn't from me, but they have been prematurely discharged or other things have happened. It's highly concerning. And that's because when they leave treatment, wherever they're at, they're just kids. And so we need to relocate them. Okay. So I really would answer that by saying it's case by case.
Okay. Well, I think there's a tremendous need, so I'm not against this at all. The concerns I have or question is, how are you funded? I mean, you're going to come into Federal Way, there's a building over here, you're going to go to a realtor or whoever and lease it, and you're going to spend a lot of money if it takes a year. So where's your funding coming from? Is it investors that are doing it, or working internal capital that you're running out of your budgets, or how are you funded? So 9 months from now, we get halfway through like the last one and nothing happens?
Yeah, so we are funded through investors on top of grants. My primary investor has been awarded 5 grants alone and has opened several projects, and I think that would be an opportunity, or there would be an opportunity when you guys are getting to know us, where you could learn more about those operations, see our facilities that are open, running, that are in development, ready to launch. We have our hands in a lot of different behavioral health stuff in other counties, but as far as funding goes, definitely investors.
Is this already funded?
Yes, sir.
So you already have secured the funding to move forward?
Yes, sir.
So our zoning in that area doesn't say you couldn't do that today if you wanted to sign a lease and go in and do this project.
Mm-hmm.
So explain to me again what you need us to do, just to say that we're not opposed to it? Or do you need to be specifically listed by the city council?
I think having a resolution and showing support would definitely mean a lot. We would be neighbors. And so I don't want to open this. It's one of a kind. So there's none other in the state, first off.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of regulatory stuff going on with Department of Health. The Joint Commission has to come in before we even open. There's a lot more checks and balances that are going to happen with this facility than any other type of behavioral health facility, and a lot of oversight. And so having your support and you knowing what's happening along the way, because the truth is, whether it's short-term or long-term or outpatient, it really belongs to this community.
Yeah. I guess my question is, going back to support, we could either, zoning right now, and Keith, you can tell me if I'm wrong, would not prohibit you from coming into our community today and be a viable business in our community that would be welcome to be here. But the problem I have with saying we're going to pick one person and give them a resolution, and other than you want our support, I don't know what that does. Does it help with your funding, or does it? Why is that so important? Everybody that's come to this council about that building wants us to give a resolution, and this is a free capitalist country where anybody can qualify for a rent and take a building and be in business, and we as a council usually support businesses. What's so important about this? Nobody's explained it. And, so anyway, that's why I'm asking.
It goes back to the reimbursement of services. So we have relationships with the managed care organization. So we'll use coordinated care. In King County, and it's the only county that does this, we actually can contract the same way we would with an insurance company with King County. And to do that, we need this council's support to show that you're for it. And that's how we'd be reimbursed for the services that are provided to your citizens here.
So you're saying specific support, naming you, not saying that we support the idea.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Which is why I wouldn't press you for time, and I want to allow the council, Mr. Mayor, to get to know us and really actually make a decision, an educated decision.
And I guess I have 2 last questions.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of these students that will be in your facility be in our local schools? Do they go to school, or do you bring school to them, or do they just stay there and recover? How does that work?
Yeah, so in Oregon and Texas, it's called the Trillium model. That's kind of where we were basing this off of.
Okay, and you have a place in Texas and...
No, hear me out.
Okay,
hear me out. I'll get to the point, I promise. Yeah. And what they do is they actually have like an education, like a mini center there, where they bring in teachers from the local school district. So we're happy to do that, or we're happy just to pay teachers, bring them in, and do what we have to do to have internal education. Yeah, either or.
Okay. And then do you have any studies of how many people you keep out of the emergency room because they have a facility like this they can go to?
Well,
or is that something you track?
We would really be setting the tone on that, one, because there's, like I said, there's no other facilities like that in the state. And I want to say there's only a handful of states that have actually used this waiver to set this up. So Acadia Healthcare, They have treatment centers like this in different capacities. And of course, you know, they're a major, major corporation and have had good luck with it. So by using kind of what we know off of the larger treatment and then focusing on the youth, we're really going to be at the forefront of the data.
And my last question, Mayor, and then I'll turn it over. What is your timeline to have a resolution, or what's, you know, you've come before us, it's got put on our agenda by 3 people, it never has been through committee, it's never been anywhere. You must be good because you're fortunate to be here, because this is not the way I would ever have done it. But what's your timeline look like?
I would say, what does your timeline look like?
Our timeline could be a year from now. We do land use and it takes forever, but I'm asking what kind of what is your timeline? What are you looking for? How quick? Or I mean, is there a drop dead date where this disappears because it's been 3 weeks, 2 weeks, a month? I mean,
I would say, you know, 90 days from now, ideally.
Okay.
If it goes out 6 months and you say, you know, we want to come to Tacoma and see what you're doing and we need more time because we're busy, I mean, I think that's fine too. Okay. Transparency, accountability, we stand by it.
Okay, so this is a 90-day decision process. You'd like it sooner, but if it took us 90 days to say we're all in, go for it, that wouldn't put you out of business.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember McDaniel?
Yeah, I don't think 90 days really matters. People are going to have their mindsets before we even start the conversation sometimes. I'm not saying people in the council, I'm saying people in general. There is a big stigma against this kind of concept of even trying to help people.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'll say again, if I look back, it says centered opportunity. I see it as an opportunity. I've drilled you with a lot of questions. I told the mayor I wouldn't spend an hour talking to you, so we keep this kind of short. I had a list of 9 questions. You actually nailed a lot of them, and my colleagues actually nailed a lot of them too. But you went back and gave you a background. I didn't know what your background beforehand was, even though I've met with you already. Mm-hmm. But I see your background in this area, and I see that you've got the Masters of Arts in the areas that actually matter here. The second thing is, who is this designed for? It's designed for kids, for the most part, or youth, as they call them nowadays. I know it says 18. I think it actually is a little bit more than 18, depending on stigmas or requirements for legal purposes. And what really caught me when we talked earlier is foster kids are a big chunk of this.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize how bad of a deal foster kids get. No one wants them. They get abandoned. And if they don't get adopted by a certain age, they age out of the system. When they age out of the system, they kick them out of the system.
Yes, sir.
So I understand a big chunk of them are going to be foster kids one way or another. It's just how it is. I was looking for an example of the process, the intake process. If a parent has a kid, and I'm going to give you an example why in a minute here. Mm-hmm. If a parent has a kid who has an issue, what is the process for them?
Well, from the time that they come in, the admission starts. And so that means we're collecting the data, and then we immediately wrap around that child. So we use a wraparound model that would include a psychiatrist or an ARMP that's board certified in mental health, a therapist, a clinical social worker, mental health registered nurse, peer support. Typically those 5 areas, nursing, counseling, medication management, all of them would have their own assessment process. So it's quite a lengthy admission, but when it's done right, it paints the whole picture of this child. And then we can look at, okay, what do you meet clinical necessity for first off? Because we need that to determine the level of care. And then we look at what is this child willing to do and how involved is the family going to be? Is their family involved, or is this foster care? You know, because we're going to have to set policy and standard of what does it look like when they're coming from foster care versus they have aunt, uncle, mom, dad, grandma, whoever, who's right there along with them, you know, stepping down. But it really starts with figuring out clinical necessity and then starting treatment as soon as possible. That's always the key to good treatment, is getting in and starting as soon as they're there. Because you have a small window of opportunity when someone's motivated or has the support to get into treatment to get them engaged in treatment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The next question is mentioned a little bit, but I just want to make sure I understand. So funding source, you guys are private with a little bit of a public twist on it. So some of the patients that will be coming there will be private pay or private insurance, and the other ones will be the Medicaid scenarios. Is that?
I would revert, yeah, I'd reverse.
For Medicaid more?
Yeah.
Okay. But there is both sides that are included in that equation for you guys, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any local beds where it is, like, I went to the current facility and it is one step away from SCORE. I've been to SCORE also, and that's a local jail system that we have here, especially the back section. That reminds me of SCORE, reminds me of a military barracks of some kind. So with that said, is there any local beds that would be guaranteed for kids who need them?
Absolutely. I don't see why we could not arrange that. Absolutely. I think that Federal Way, you know, whatever city that this center is in takes priority, because really the whole mission of this center is to start and work our way out, starting with the families in the community that we serve.
Gotcha. I'm almost done with my questions.
Yeah.
The next one is safety. That was a big concern last time about free roaming people and stuff like that. This facility is a lockdown facility, is it not?
It would be locked down, and you would not make it to a door without a staff member being notified way before then.
Gotcha.
So as soon as somebody even gets to one of the egress doors, there's already staff that's going to be there. So nobody's going to be able to get to that street without somebody knowing.
Yeah. And I noticed that when we walk the premises that the back fence and stuff like that are in disrepair. Would you guys be upgrading some of the surrounding facility safety purposes and stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely. And the curb appeal is going to be great, especially for the community. New fencing, outdoor activities. We're going to get rid of that police transport parking, and that will either be designed for some sort of outdoor activity and then move the fence. Haven't decided that. But basically, we'll use that space out there for outdoor activities. There's also going to be a gym inside, so that's pretty cool.
Gotcha. And then where do they go afterwards? The ones who, like, I know the ones who have parents, families, they most likely go back to the families. What about the next one? What about the continuation of care for them?
Are you referring to children that are not in your county or in your city?
It'd be, what was that?
Foster kids?
Like foster kids. I mean, someone goes through treatment, but they don't have the next step. You know, they're not going to go home to a family. They're not going to go home to someone. I mean, they come in, like you said, you don't turn anybody away. What's the next step for those people?
Well, the cool thing about them residing with us and getting treatment is, one, if they're local, then of course they would step down to our outpatient clinics. Currently, you know, we're in Tacoma, and then we would be in Federal Way, and, you know, who knows where else. So really having outpatient internally would be our goal. We would love to have Emerald City outpatient everywhere so that we can continue care after the residential treatment. However, no one's going to leave without a referral, and they're not leaving without transportation. So we're making sure that there is a plan in place, which is typical for treatment and aftercare plan, where everything's mapped out. From the day that they start treatment, the aftercare planning, the discharge planning starts taking place. So the planning is always evolving.
Gotcha. And then unlike the last people who had mentioned this, the people who come there are not able to just leave and just go anywhere. They actually are literally signed out, correct?
Right, yeah.
Okay. And then one of my last ones is partnership, city and community. You had mentioned it, but you sounds like you're committed to actually having an actual partnership with the city and with the community?
Yeah.
With maybe insight and communications back and forth?
Yeah, with what you guys need, especially with outpatient clinics. So like I said, we would love to be everywhere. I'm not against if you guys are like, hey, we're seeing a lot of families in need up in this area. You guys know your city better than I do. And then me getting with my CEO and my investors and saying, let's do an outpatient clinic up there for aftercare so we can keep this going. So, you know, partnership for us means how do we serve you?
Gotcha. Last two questions. The back wall, if you do this, I'd love to see a mural of hope built. I want something on that back wall when you walk and you can see that there's actually change and opportunity coming into the city. So just keep that in mind. And then the last one is, last time we had this conversation, I talked about a kill switch, a way to shut a facility down if it got out of hand or did not follow what we'd said. I know that we do not currently have it for medical treatment, but I will let you know that I will be looking at putting that in place. So if this does not go the right way, there will be a way to shut you guys down.
Absolutely, and I'll say this, full transparency, if you should go back on the resolution that you do give us, then our reimbursement would go away anyways. So know that.
Understood.
Yeah.
And then the reason I asked you about that stuff earlier is on Saturday after I taught 2 kids class of jiu-jitsu and helped with an adult class, I was over by Big 5, which is a place that most people know around here, And as I sat there, I saw a lady drive up in a vehicle next to me. A gentleman got out of the vehicle who looked like he might stay on the streets most of the time. He walked about 25 feet away, pulled out a plastic straw, a piece of metal, and lit it up. Within 5 minutes, he was back in the car with his mom, and his mom was taking him somewhere. There was nothing I could do. I could make comments, I could talk to him, I could do something. There's no way to send him. I could send him to a day center. That's not going to help him. There's no treatment for this stuff right now. If that situation happened again, is that something that I could possibly hand to you guys? Give a card, do something where that mom would at least have an opportunity. I know other people in this council who have friends who we've watched them struggle with their kids, with addiction, and literally they're dying in their basement because they don't know what to do with the child. So is that something that if I ran into that and you guys were open, that I could bring someone to you?
Well, absolutely, especially when we're talking about opioids, you know, the secure withdrawal management, the key word is secure, is getting them in so that they can have the 7 to 10 days of withdrawal management in a secured facility.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Council President?
Oh, well, thank you very much. So I'm trying to understand, the people who came to us at the last meeting wanted a resolution, as you do, to access the money from the county that is a tax on the South County residents, that had to have the resolution by a certain period of time, quite quickly.
Yeah.
So that they could get that money from the county, but you're telling me you don't have a time frame.
Yeah. So that was most likely for the King County grant that had just closed, I want to say on the 28th. So they likely were looking for your support so that they could include that in that application. Maybe, I'm not sure. I know for us, I don't need a grant to open the facility. And so I'm not relying on grant funds to launch, ma'am.
So I'm wondering why you need a resolution from us then. Is it for money from the county, correct?
Well, that's for reimbursement of services that's ongoing, because the Healthcare Authority will pay King County as the middleman, and then we are contracted with them. It's a lot of red tape, ma'am.
So, no, I get that. Okay. With all due respect.
Yes,
94 kids in that facility, 94 beds, for 9 months. I'm not saying all 9 months, 94 kids.
Yeah.
I mean, you need a ranch, or you need space, or you need an area where they can work. I mean, they're not going to just play basketball all day and talk. I mean, they need.
Oh, no, and that's definitely not, if that's going on, then we're not doing our job. So that facility, one, after the remodel, will have 45,000, if not more, square feet. And it's currently, I want to say, at 26,000 square feet. But the goal here, when it comes to basketball and activities, that's to keep them stimulated and engaged.
Yeah, I understand that.
But they're there for treatment. So
Yeah,
this
I
means
understand that.
they wake up in the morning and they have counselors, they have peer counselors, they're working.
Okay, what I'm worried about is you are right next to a community center. It's not that you're next to the city hall, you're by a community center.
I love
where
that.
Young people go, children go, and
Yes.
elderly people.
Yes,
Some walk, some take the bus.
yes.
I'm just wondering if this is the correct place. It's not that we're against, not that I'm against what you're doing, it's if that's the right location for you. So, and can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Do you notify the parents when they're under 18 that they're in your facility?
Well, yeah,
There's
yeah.
a-
It's a family model. We really, yeah, we really engage from day one with the family system, yeah.
There's a bill in the legislature right now with, you are aware of that bill?
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of bills like that, especially when it comes to, you know, they can make their own decision after the age of 13. But here's the thing, when you get in there, we are skilled clinicians, and I've yet to sit with, especially a teenager, and not help motivate them by using the skills that I've been taught to get them to where we need them to be.
So let me ask you another question.
Yes.
So you're in a very congested area. This is
Yes.
congested.
Yes.
And you have a lot of kids, 21 and under, is what you've already told me.
We'll say primarily 13 to 18 will be our primary, yes.
Primary, right,
Yes.
up to 21. And then they're going to have their friends coming by, or their drug dealers, or their.
No,
Okay.
no, absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
So, thank you. So then my question would be to ask our police chief, may I have your opinion, sir, of this facility and this location?
I certainly have some reservations.
I certainly have some reservations because it is next to our Federal Way Community Center. We have a lot of vulnerable population, as you mentioned. I'm hearing there was the building was around 25,000. They're going to expand it to 46,000, I'm hearing tonight. But 94 beds is a pretty large operation. I guess another I would think is, are the doors secure or are they not? Because I was hearing that staff would intervene, but what if they couldn't? Can people that are in that facility walk out or leave the facility? I know they're on field trips or outside the facility with escort, but I'm reading, I saw the PowerPoint, it looked like it was a secure facility where you couldn't just walk out, but it's sounding like somebody could just walk out. So I would be concerned about calls for service with 94 beds for law enforcement, for runaways, or incidents that may occur at the facility. But this is not a low barrier. It sounds like people could just bring juveniles, but it doesn't look like it's a low barrier facility where we don't have multiple agencies, police agencies, bringing people that are in crisis. So it's a little different facility, but I have some reservations because it's right next to our Federal Way Community Center.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Honda, and then Councilmember Walsh, Councilmember Adobe, and then when we get through those comments, I've got a suggestion with regard to how to proceed. All right.
Thank you. So Councilmember Dovey asked how this occurred, where Mr. Clark came from. He sent council an email about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, and I responded to it and asked if I could sit and meet with him. I did. I invited Councilmember McDaniel, and Councilmember Hong attended for a short while. We talked with Mr. Clark, and then he invited us to go over to the building. The building is almost done. There's just a section that isn't done. Anyone can move into that building, and they don't need our permission. And they can have a crisis drop-off center. They can do whatever they want. It's what it's zoned for, and it has beds in it. It is ready to go. I've ridden my bike around the parking lot. I didn't realize how big that building is until you walk through it, and it is massive.
It is.
It's huge. Yeah, it's tall too. So, the 2 stories will be not a problem there. The issue is, the property is zoned for this. If we don't want this there, we're going to have to change the zoning because someone is going to use this building that's already done for this use. This is not a crisis center. This is mental health treatment for children. And if you are looking at the news or talking to educators or talking to parents, you know that since COVID, our kids are in crisis and our kids need help, and there isn't help available. I asked Mr. Clark, how are you going to get clinicians? Because I'm hearing from other people that are on a waiting list for their kid to see a therapist, that they're on a waiting list for 9 months. So where is he going to get enough people to treat kids? He's going to pay them. He gave us his pay scale. These are 100+ jobs, very well-paid jobs. And if he can magically get enough clinicians who, I don't know if you want to pass this down to Councilmember Dovey, who are willing to come here and work for him, that would be amazing, because our kids need it. This is not, this issue of people coming and wanting to use that site, it's not going to go away. And I think that because this is not a crisis drop-in center, it's for youth. There will be staff there to help youth in all stages of their recovery. It will provide high-paying jobs. It will people will be coming from around the area if their children are here and they need a place to stay. I think that this would be a good partner for us. I support this resolution, and I would encourage our other council members to do the same. And as the building is being remodeled and the the treatment facility, excuse me, is being worked on. We can work more with Mr. Clark and his team as a city and become really good, true partners, because I think this is it's what our youth need, not just our youth in Federal Way, but our youth in general.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's nothing like it. I think it's a good deal. I think it's the best deal that we've had so far, and I would encourage that we support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councilmember Walsh? Councilmember Walsh, Councilmember Dovey, and then Councilmember Tran.
Yeah. Just a couple more questions. One is sounds like there'll be a lot of foster care kids. When they do, you know, you say that it's, and we all know that it's hard to find homes for foster care kids, especially older ones like that. And so when they do complete their treatment, and how do you make sure they have some place to go?
Oof. We can't, but here's the thing. A lot of times there's challenges in foster care because of the trouble that the child is going through. And we are a solution to that. And so it's a lot easier for DCYF, who's responsible for finding that child a home, to step in when that child has been habilitated, has a baseline and some normalcy and is able to function at a higher level to find them a home.
And then is Emerald City Counseling, is it a nonprofit or for-profit?
For-profit.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dovey?
And thanks for your answer. And I, you know, I think that there's some real possibilities here, but I don't think that tonight is the time to make the decision. I think that we need to make sure that we do our proper due diligence. Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Dovey?
Yeah, I'm actually for moving ahead on this. I'm not against it at all. I think this is probably a wise thing that we should do. I don't think we make the decision at the dais the first night it came here, and I appreciate our council members that went and did the tour, and maybe there's a few more vetting questions we need to ask. Yeah. I'm not concerned about being by the community center. I'd hope they'd buy memberships and take the kids over there, climb the wall. I mean, I think that's part of the whole process.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, whatever, however that works. So, again, I'm not against this at all in our community. But the thing that I think we need to vet is now we've had 3 people come to us and say, give us a resolution for this. And we're picking, by giving a resolution, we're picking a winner somewhat. And that's the part that I have the hard part with. I do understand that if we're not backing it, I believe you said, you can't get reimbursed through the federal government that goes to King County that goes to you. Because they're the gatekeepers of the money.
Yes, sir.
And so that's why you need a resolution. It's not because you don't want to do it and if we all say go for it, but you need the revenue source from the county for the pass-through. That's the biggest reason why you need a resolution, correct?
I love this facility too.
Well, no, besides that, we love it.
But
we love Federal Way. We're all here. We want good people with us, but that's really key because you're not going to make the $4 million operating profit that you have here on your performer I just got unless you get the pass-through from the county.
But I will if I just go and go 10 miles over, which I'll start, I mean, depending on what the investors want, you know, we can go to Pierce County and build, and then we do it there. When I first stepped into that facility, like I said, this isn't a crisis center. This is fantastic.
Yeah, okay. Well, again, I just would like to make sure we vetted it out.
Yeah.
But I'm personally not opposed to something like this in our city.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember
Tran. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes.
Okay. So I just want to voice my support for this project.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not going to repeat what had been said by the COO or some other council members. But what I can see is this agency will provide a very critical service to the community, especially to the youth in our community. That is something that I'm looking at and I'm very, very interested. Another thing is this facility will bring in high-paying jobs to the city, and that will impact our revenue, our tax base. The other added benefit that I can see, and it was mentioned by the COO, and that is when families come here with their kids to receive treatment, most likely they will stay in our city, stay at the hotel, spend the money in the city, and that is another revenue for the city. I, along with Paul and Susan, toured the facility, and they're not done yet, but they're very close. Based on the conversation during the tour, I am very confident that in terms of the security of the facility and the call to service to our police department, I am not too concerned about that. And I'm not too concerned about the facility is close to the community, just like Councilmember Dovey mentioned. I think this is something that we need in the community. This is the best so far that I can see. And I really hope that, council will support this because it is the right thing to do. I mean, to be honest with you, I am disappointed that many of us in the community keep saying the things that we need for this community, right? The mental health facility, the crisis center, or whatever that is. But then when we are about to do something, I feel like we encounter this mentality of not in my backyard. It is not acceptable. And you can be mad at me, I'm sorry, but this is how I see. For the last many years that I've been on this council, we just need to do this. So, that's my 2 cents. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council President, then we're going to have Brian chime in. Council President.
Oh, thank you very much, Mayor. So when we started this evening, first of all, I was trying to figure out why all of a sudden we had somebody coming before us when we had somebody last week.
Yes, ma'am.
And we normally, it's like, normally we have numbers or groups of people who come to us so that we aren't just picking and choosing the winner. We, try to be fair with everybody. And when we were talking about this, as a 16-bed facility, I was open to that. Mm-hmm. But when you mentioned 94, I thought, oh my gosh. Plus, that's not just for us, that's for this entire state. People could come here from the region, from the state, wherever. So I would feel, first of all, not making a decision this evening because it's very quick for us. Second, I would like to, entertain the idea of opening a facility for a 16-bed facility and see how it went, how it operated.
Yeah,
because we haven't had this before.
Yeah, we already have 16-bed facilities, and my developers, they're happy to build as many as you want. Actually, he's right here. This guy in the back, he's happy to build all the 16 beds. I just don't have an interest in putting a 16-bed facility in every one of your neighborhoods, and then we have to have the same dialogue that says, what does this look like?
Okay, so I understand how you feel, but you have to hear how we feel.
No, I hear you.
We have a whole area over by the day center that we're having a lot of problems with.
Yeah, I get it, and we want to be part of the solution to keep this. Like I said, this is a beautiful area, and we just want to make it better.
So this
thank you. I've said my piece.
Essentially, a proposed 94-bed psychiatric custodial facility for juveniles.
Co-occurring. SUD and mental health, Mr. Mayor, with secure withdrawal management and an outpatient clinic.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Brian?
Yes, Mayor, I was just going to say, this is kind of a similar discussion that we had at the last proposal, where the council was all on board, and then they said, why don't we, do a little research and then come back at the next meeting, and then it was a little different. So I would suggest that we, and the presenter here has indicated that they are not pressed for time. I mean, they'd like to do this as soon as possible, but they're not under a grant deadline like some of the other proposals that we've heard. So just a suggestion that, and I think it's been said already, that you allow for us to do a little bit more than the memo that we had to throw together, because this was placed on the agenda by the council, which is good, but I would suggest that we do a little bit more research before making a decision.
Okay, that's Brian's recommendation. Is there a?
Can I ask one more question? I mean, can we put a date certain that we're going to vote yes or no? I mean, I'd like to do it. I'm not going to vote for it tonight. I would vote for it in 2 weeks if we did some vetting. But I think we owe the people a yes or no.
All right.
But if the council, I mean, I might vote no, and if there's 4 of you want to vote yes, I'm not going to.
We're an hour and 3 minutes in the discussion. So is there a motion to either move forward or to move this forward? Is there a motion before the body, Council President?
Well,
can I make a motion?
Council,
I'd make a motion that we make a decision at our next council meeting, yes or no, if we want to support this.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'd like to make a friendly amendment.
Okay.
Does there need to be a second first before that?
Well, let's hear the friendly amendment.
I think that it should be 30 days, so 2 meetings down the road.
Would you accept that as
I would appreciate that, because I won't be at the next meeting, nor will Han. We'll both be out of town.
Okay.
So
I would suggest the first meeting in May.
Do you accept that as a friendly amendment?
I'd go to the first meeting in May as long as we make the vote.
You can certainly make that motion, but
I made that motion.
Yeah.
I'll accept the.
Okay, there's been a motion. It's been changed by a friendly amendment. Is there any discussion to that motion? Councilmember Honda.
I'm ready to make the decision tonight.
Okay. Is there?
I don't know what how are you going to investigate it or look into it in the next.
Well, this is the first time we've ever heard from this group in a public setting. Is it not?
They're asking for a resolution of support.
And once they have that, they have the funding for a 94-bed psychiatric facility next to our community center. You ready to vote?
I am.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilmember Dovey?
We need to vote on my motion.
Right. I know.
But when we're in a business, I don't know any business deal that's I don't know. What is this for them, they're going to invest a lot of money, and it's 18 million in revenue, 4 million in profit, which is great. I hope they make more than that. But I'm not going to vote to do something on the first night because I haven't heard enough. We've had a great discussion. This gentleman has been very good, but there's just a lot of different things, and we're voting for a winner or a loser without knowing any more.
Right.
In my business world, I wouldn't do the deal on the first meeting, but I'm willing to make a decision in 30 days.
Without due diligence, without a background check, without any kind of official site visit, without a committee hearing, without a study session, right?
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion? Councilman McDaniel, do you have any other discussion?
When we had the last meeting 2 weeks ago, a bunch of stuff came up from the chief of police who gave me bad numbers on calls. You brought up some stuff that was not mentioned beforehand that you knew information about, that they needed us to resolution to move in there. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't come up before we vote on stuff. I'm looking at voting on something in a minute. I'm still talking. Thank you very much. I am still talking. Do you mind?
You're out of order, council member. You're out of order. You're accusing the police department of providing false information to you.
I have, right here. I'm looking at right here. I have the email from him that listed.
He did not provide false information.
Do you listen to what I have to say before you say something? He sent me an email, and it had numbers on it. Then we get more numbers that come in later, and then I get a newsletter from the February Mayor saying they called and talked to him, and that number was different, a lot less. The number one complaint I get about the police department is the numbers don't match. People come here and complain about it all the time. I want truth and I want facts. That's how I make my decisions.
How about due diligence?
I did do my due diligence.
All right. Is there any other?
Well, there is a motion on the table, Mayor. I think we should either vote on that motion and let it die, or
there's a motion to continue this to the next council meeting. To two council members, the first meeting in May. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Anna?
I have a comment.
It's too late for that.
Council President Kochbar,
Aye.
Councilmember Assefa Dawson,
Nay.
Councilmember McDaniel,
Nay.
Councilmember Honda,
Nay.
Councilmember Tran,
Nay.
Councilmember Walsh,
Aye.
Councilmember Dovey,
Aye.
Motion fails.
All right. Is there another motion?
Yes. I move approval of the proposed resolution.
Second.
Been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Anna?
Council
Nay.
President Kochmar,
Nay.
Councilmember Assefa Dawson,
Aye.
Councilmember McDaniel,
Aye.
Councilmember Honda,
Aye.
Councilmember Tran,
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh,
Nay.
Councilmember Dovey,
Nay.
motion passes 4-3.
Well, congratulations, Federal Way. You've got a psychiatric facility. Okay, let's move on. Next item on the agenda is item C, authorization to accept WCIA's risk reduction grant.
I move to authorize the acceptance of the WCIA risk reduction grant in the amount of $15,000.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes unanimously. Item 10, ordinances. First reading. Item A, Council Bill 902, ordinance, parked impact fee methodology, presentation from Evan Lewis.
Give me 1 second while this file appears. It's not showing up on the list for some reason. Councilmember Tran, can you see the screen? Just want to make sure everything is working tech-wise. Okay, well, it said the screen's sharing, so good evening, Mayor Farrell, Council President Kochmar, and council members. This is an ordinance for a Title 19 zoning code amendment related to the methodology for calculating our park impact fee. The amendment updates code references to the new park impact fee methodology and how the fee may be adjusted with inflation in the future. The actual implementation of the new park impact fee methodology is reflected in the fee schedule that council passed on the consent agenda earlier tonight. The policy question is, should City Council amend the Federal Way Revised Code Title 19 to update the methodology for calculating our park impact fee? Just some quick background. The park impact fee funds park projects to help meet park needs that result from future growth. In short, it ensures that our future residential growth helps mitigate the impacts of that growth on city parks. In 2023, council adopted the park impact fee chapter, as well as a park impact fee study that established the maximum allowed park impact fee that we could charge, and then also through our fee schedule, the park impact fee that we actually charge. In 2023, Senate Bill 5258, which was one of a suite of several state laws that was passed to facilitate housing production in the state, required that impact fees reflect the proportionate share of impact of new housing units. Consistent with that state law, we updated our park impact fee method, implemented again through the separate resolution that was adopted earlier, to base our park impact fee calculation on a per square foot of residential dwelling unit method, as opposed to the current method, which is just the same fee for all residential units. It also set a minimum and maximum park impact fee that's based on the dwelling unit size. And this ordinance here is quite simple. It amends just a few references to the park impact fee methodology in order to be consistent with the new methodology, as well as adds a section that ensures that our park impact fee, starting in 2027, can be adjusted with inflation. The adoption process is here, hopefully on track for adoption at the April 15th meeting. There were no public comments, and the development regulation amendment criteria and our compliance with that is outlined in the staff report, and the mayor's recommendation is option 1, to forward the proposed ordinance to the April 15th meeting for second reading and enactment.
Council, any questions of Evan? All right. Anna, do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay. Would the Deputy City Clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 902, Ordinance Park Impact Fee Methodology Code Amendments, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to amending the city parks impact fee methodology, amending Federal Way Revised Code 1992040 and 1992050, and adding a new section 1992170.
All right, Councilmember W., do you have a motion?
Yes, I do, Mayor. I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the April 15th, 2025 council meeting for second reading and enactment.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passed unanimously. Second reading, Council Bill 900, Ordinance, Title 18, Annual Code Clarifications, Cleanups, Corrections, and Consistency Amendments. Would the Deputy City Clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 900, Ordinance Title 18, Annual Code Clarifications, Cleanups, and Corrections, and Consistency Amendments. An ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to amendments that improve consistency, clarity, and accuracy of Federal Way Revised Code, Title 18, amending Federal Way Revised Code 1805080, 1810010, 1845010, 1845040, 1855040, and repealing 1845050.
All right, Councilmember W., do you have a motion?
Yeah, I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Matter passed unanimously. Item B, Council Bill 901. Would the Deputy City Clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 901, Ordinance Title 19, Annual Code Clarifications, Cleanups, Corrections, and Consistency Amendments. An ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to amendments that improve the consistency, clarity, and accuracy of Federal Way Revised Code Title 19, amending Federal Way Revised Code 1905060, 1905160, 1905190, 1915030, 1915050, 1955040, 1960070, 1965070, 1970060, 1911010, 1912011, 1912560, 1912560, 1913080, 1913060, 1920540, 192201005, 1922555, 1923055, 1924095, 192752020, 192753030, 192754040, and repealing 1911520.
All right, Councilmember W.
Yeah, I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes unanimously. Council reports. Councilmember Assefa Dawson.
Thank you, Mayor. That discussion did not go the way I thought it would, and I'm a little disturbed. What I'm going to say is I did want to make another friendly motion to have moved this to the next meeting on 4/15, not over a month, and that's what the mayor blocked me from doing. And my reason for that would have been an opportunity for the rest of us to go tour the place, meet, talk to staff. So 2 weeks would not have made that much of a difference. However, I didn't want to wait much longer. And I think they come with the funding, they come with everything. And contrary to what Council President said, yes, 16 beds is what was offered, but 94 is what we need. I mean, I don't know really exactly, but what does 16 do for us when we're talking about multi-leveled and multi-tiered services? So I voted for it because I don't want to take much time. And like I said, they come with the funding. They're just ready to go. And we've sat on this for a long time. So I hope our council, we're very passionate about some things, and I think our passion came out tonight, and some other times too. But yeah, I just want to say that that was what I wanted to say, Mayor, and you didn't give me the opportunity to add that, and I just wanted to express. And on a personal note, I was in New York last week, and my son got matched with Johns Hopkins, where he wanted to go to do his residency in pediatrics and anesthesiologist. So I'm proud of him. I'm happy, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Right, yeah, voting had started. That's why, Councilmember. But Councilmember McDaniel.
Yeah, I just took a big gamble, and I better pay off, because if you can save one family's suffering, it's worthwhile in my mind. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. I just want to talk about a few things that I've been doing lately. I attended the Regional Transit Committee meeting, where we often talk about safety on our transit system and other things. I attended a 2-day workshop online on healthcare sponsored by APAICS, which is Asian Pacific American Islanders, and it's a national group. It was held in Washington, D.C. I was honored to be invited to attend. I learned a lot about healthcare and even mental health. They talked a lot about mental health in elderly folks that I didn't know. And I can use some of that stuff in my own life with what we have in my family going on with my mother-in-law who has dementia. There was a fundraiser for Young Life on Friday night, and they had a good turnout. And on Sunday, I was fortunate enough to be invited to a retirement event at Still Lake Presbyterian Church. Pastors Colleen Chinnan and Will Mason both retired, and they do have another pastor that's stepping in for these two. Pastor Colleen has been a huge supporter of our senior advisory group, and Still Lake Presbyterian Church has been a huge financial supporter of the senior advisory group. And I didn't even know that Pastor Colleen was old enough to retire. She looks so young. But it's a huge loss to our community to have two pastors of their caliber retire at the same time. And Pastor Colleen has said that she will stay involved with the Senior Commission, and that'll be a plus for us because she's an amazing person and does amazing work. The Korean Quarterly meeting was last week. I got an email from a council member up in Snohomish, and they have a large Korean community, and he had heard about some of the things that we do down here in Federal Way. So I have invited him to come to our next Korean Quarterly meeting, which will be in June. So, maybe they can do that up there because they're looking for things in order to engage their Korean community. And on April 26th, AARP is sponsoring a shredding event at the Federal Way Pavilions, BECU Federal Way Pavilions Neighborhood Financial Center. This is the one on Pacific Highway South. So you can bring 3 bags from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thank you very much.
Councilor Tran?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Mayor, and council members and staff for accommodating my my travel schedule. I really appreciate it. Please know that wherever I go and wherever I'm sitting, even looking at the beach right now, I always thinking about you. So have a good day.
Well said. All right, Councilmember Walsh.
Yeah, I wish that the resolution would have gone the other way. In all probability, a month from now, I would have been voting aye. And but the council has spoken, and you folks have my full support. And I hope that it goes very well. I wish we could have vetted it a little bit more, but what's done is done. So you have my full support, and I hope you have great success with it. Just a quick reminder, April 26th, Parks Appreciation. And the last thing is on the little brighter side, Sunday at the Ukrainian community organization event. It was great, great food. And to cheer yourselves up, take a look at that. I don't know whether you can call it a loaf of bread or not, but back on the back table, I've never seen bread that looks like that. It is beautiful, beautiful. And so anyway, so let's end things on a happy note. Take a look at the bread and say, wow.
Councilor Dovey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I got a couple things I'd like to go over. One, I went to Center Stage last weekend, or when they opened. I'd encourage everybody to go to that play. They did a very, very fine job. There weren't enough people from Federal Way visiting it, so I would encourage the council to show up, buy a ticket, go see what's happening in our community and members of the community. Number two, I want to thank the group that put together the coffee. I had some very good conversations with citizens. There was 3 things that came up that I'd like to share. A couple citizens had concerns about racing on Hoyt Road. They say that it happens all the time between 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock. We might want to look into that, or maybe we already are. Many people they talked about the day center and merging it with the Red Lion. That came up a few times, so I think we as a council need to consider if that can be a deal that we put together. I mean, we just voted on an $18 million deal without much of information, so I think we should probably look at that. And there were people that were very interested in having mental health, so, that came up. And lastly, I was talking to people from the community market, and they said that, of course, the state gave them $75,000, and they have the Port of Seattle wants to give them some money, and so does some other people, but unless the Federal Way gives them any money, they're not going to get those grants. So we might want to have a discussion with that in the future. And again, hey, we had a 4-3 vote. You always want 7-0. It makes it a lot easier for the people doing something, but that's life. Thank you.
Council President?
I would like to just discuss a little bit about what happened this evening. With all due respect, I don't know who you are. I wish you all the best. I hope you're very successful. But what happened was a group that is unknown to us came to speak to 3 council members who went to visit a facility I've never seen, and then came back and decided to put this on the agenda with no prior notice, nothing going through committee, no investigation by staff, no discussion. I had no idea what we were even talking about. If you were in my position, I really think that you would be thinking the way I do, that I wouldn't have appreciated it. I do appreciate your passion, and I agree that we've been talking a long time about doing something for this community. I am very concerned about 94 beds. I was a social worker, although it was in the dark ages. Some of those kids are really big. They're not nice little kids, and they've got serious problems. Violent problems. They have friends that have violent problems with 3D guns. How do I know this? It's been in my own family. So how do I know about just believe me, I know about children with addiction. So I've lost 2 to addiction. And yes, we've always wanted something in our community, someplace where they could go to get help. And I've taken them to places nearby to get help. We've even sent them across the mountains to get help. It's not easy. It's not. All I am saying is that if we have problems and we have to put up a fence and have our police with a lot of calls to your facility, I'm going to be calling for you to be shut down, which is what we should have done with some of our facilities in the past that are affecting our businesses. And I have had people come from the community center who are elderly say, thank you for not having people with mental health problems going in right next to where we go to recreate. So this is not an easy thing. 16 beds would have been doable for me. 94 beds for me is totally frightening. So I hope that in the future, and I've been around in this business, in this city, in the state legislature, long enough to say you need due process to get a good result. You need to investigate. You need to see. You can't just say, oh, you've got a good idea, I'll go with you. You need to have fairness. You need to have people come from the community who say what they think, like a public meeting. You need to have committee meetings. And you need to allow our staff to do their job. So now, I will go off into the future. This will be in your hands to take care of this community. I ask you to go through due process the way we have always done, and to keep the community, even though you think this is the great idea right now, it may not be. That's why you have time to investigate. So we're going to move forward. I've been on the short end of the stick on many votes in the past. I hope you do well. I'll be behind you if you do. If you don't, you'll be hearing from me. You should have called us before. You had 3 people go through your community. You could have called the other 3 to go through your facility as well. We could have had a proper discussion.
Right.
So now we're in this discussion where we've had people angry at each other. I have no idea how well you're going to do, but believe me, we will be watching.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.